Peace. Letting everybody settle in. Good to see you all. Hey. Ezra's in the house. Shout out to Ezra. Scott Allen. How to Puff. Good to see you. Mila White is with us. Good to see you. Or is that Jamila? Forgive me. Chickpea. Peace and blessings. What a show do we have today. So much to discuss. As usual, where do we begin? I swear, this clown world, the clownification of society and reality as we know it, has undergoing its next stage. And aren't we so lucky to be here and experience it all, right? As if luck is a thing. Got some green tea here. A little lemon and ginger powder. It's good stuff. Really good stuff. Okay, I guess let everybody fall in. Let me turn the mic up here so you guys can hear me a little better. Hopefully this is a little better. Turn up my levels. Okay. Let me bring the chat up again, see who's with us. Okay, we got a full house here. Good to see you all. A lot of new faces in the chat. Thank you all for being with us. Appreciate you. Ducati Roddy is in the house. Good to see you, man. Ned Ayers III. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Fellow patron and longtime supporter of the channel. Shout out to brother Ned. Marsha. Good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Free the Captives has entered the building. Peace to you. Okay, guys. It's time. It is time to have a little discussion here. I will try my best not to keep you too long. I'll try to keep this as concise as possible, as if that is possible for me. Oh, goodness. Well, I want to start off with just some typical mainstream media mind control news, right? I like to view their, they have these weekly, sometimes daily breakdowns on the news. NBC is probably one of the best ones to really get the mind control, to really get an understanding of the programming. And I like to just watch them just to see, the programs and how they lay them out there. It's, for me personally, it's a little mixture of comedy and frustration, right? Because you get frustrated just seeing the psyops before your eyes and the stupidity of it, the just lack of logic, fantastical nature of it. It's like it's as if we were children, it's as if they were speaking to children. So there's that aspect of it, the frustration. But then there's the comedy. I mean, it's absolutely hilarious to see some of this nonsense. So let's start with that, because I want to begin there just to give an overview of some of the new programming that's coming out. Multiple disasters, basically, right? I have this article up here. America is facing 5 epic crises at all at once, it says. And in the smaller print, it says, this is not the time to obsess about symbolism. So again, it's the mainstream media playing daddy, right? Playing mommy, the parental, I guess, power over us, right? Because it is somewhat of a power, a principality. And of course, they have to tell us how to think, right? They have to tell us how to think, tell us how to react, keep us in line, make sure we learn and know how to take orders. And here they're like, look, guys, because everyone's, I guess, in the mainstream, Normieville, if you will, people are talking about masks. It's the talk of the town, right? Everyone is either on the mask train or they're ignoring the mask train. And now it's being divided between, of course, they always have to make this dichotomy, this left and right, blue and red dichotomy, when we understand it's all purple at the end of the day. But it looks like the liberal left, the progressive left, should I say, there's nothing liberal about it as in any classical sense. It's really just hyper progressive leftism. But anyhow, the mask wearers, the mask promoters are on the left side, and the mask deniers tend to be on the right side. More the conservatives are like, we're not falling into your traps, we're not playing your games, which is interesting. It's funny how a large aspect of truth seems to fall on the right side, and I think this is even scriptural, right? Considering the left-hand path and all of that. But it's interesting how this all plays out. And now this idea of I guess COVID denial or mask denial is somewhat being connected to Trump, right? And the pro-Trump movement. It's this massive red herring, it's or a scapegoat. It's like, and this is happening with Christianity. And Brother Theo of the Unplugged channel made this. He made this. It was somewhat of a prediction. In 2016, we were discussing, right as Trump came on and he won the election, we had to talk, and we were just like, what is this really about? What's going on? And we had similar perspectives, but he really had this great foresight where he was mentioning that Trump would be the symbol for the downfall of Christianity, or at least the red herring or the scapegoat, to put blame on the Christian worldview. Basically, he would be like, wow, this is pretty deep, this guy could really be used for all the right reasons, you know what I mean? And the right reasons, I mean the right reasons for them, the wrong reasons for us. And it seems to be the case that a lot of truths are being tagged right on Trump. If you listen to Trump, and again, I'm not making any partisan argument here, I stay outside of the paradigm, but I'm just trying to give you a little perspective of my own. And when you look at Trump, you listen to some of his talks regarding COVID, he makes a joke of it, and NBC, the left, they like to like badger him for this. They're like, oh, he's not taking it serious. But the funny thing is, if you listen to what he's saying, and I'm not saying he's doing this because he knows, or the plan and this whole Q thing, I'm not even considering any of that, but I'm just saying it's very interesting and ironic, and I think this is purposeful. I think there's this is part of the programming too, but I think what he's saying about the whole virus is the truth. What do I mean by that? He says, look, it's going to be gone before you know it. It's not a big deal. You don't got to wear a mask. Don't worry about it, because that's all true. No, it's not even a real thing. It's some manipulative tactic being used to control society. Now, he isn't coming out and saying that, but his whole attitude, his whole behavior is actually correct, but he's being demonized for it, which is really interesting to me. And he's also, though I don't believe he is an authentic Christian, he is a symbol for Christianity. He's a symbol for Christian conservatism, and he's being shot down. He's the martyr. He's kind of like this martyr for this national Christian movement, which is also being equated to whiteness, which is another part of the programming. And this is another reason BLM is so popular right now, because Black Lives Matter, like black movements historically, are being used as a battering ram now for globalism, before for leftist communism. All right, that blackness, the Black liberation movement, the civil rights movement, though there were significant reasons for it, right? This was a different time. Okay, we're talking about the 50s and 60s. The black population was extremely ostracized in many ways. We could look at the GI Bill, for instance. We could look at the New Deal, okay, and some of the ramifications there. We could look at redlining and a lot of these things that were happening back then. Mind you, I will tell you, though, there was a lot of oppression and discrimination during these times against black peoples. The interesting thing you'll find is when you do a little research, the black population was much more successful then, right? More successful in the labor force. We had stronger families, much lower case of single parent families. Marriage was on a huge increase, and of course there was a strong Christian foundation with morals and a more well-rounding understanding of the world. Higher education, more consideration of education. There wasn't this anti-intellectualism that you find in the culture now. Back then, it was about being educated, and not necessarily this, not to be focused on state education, but mere education. Doing research and reading for your own knowledge, not necessarily seeking the state to teach you, but actually having somewhat of a library in your home that you dip into daily, having daily reads and these types of things. This was a normal part of culture. Being cultured. And being cultured is knowing things about the world, about other cultures, about society, about politics, about how the world works. These kind of things were, back then, were commonplace. Commonplace. Yes, for blacks as well. You'd be surprised how intelligent, structured, moral, Christian, and stable the black population was in the 40s, in the 50s, in the 60s. There's tons of data to prove this. Interestingly enough, all of this vanished during a time when we had less oppression, during a time when we had less discrimination, during a time when we had more opportunities, more technologies. How is this possible? How is it possible that the black population was so successful during a time of such racism, such blatant, overt racism? And now, when it's been turned on its head, when you can lose your job for even being perceived as a racist, or even speaking a term that might be perceived as racist. A time where the Calvin Klein, the new model for Calvin Klein on all of these boards out, just all over the place, right? Billboards, right? It's a transgender male. I mean, we could talk about systemic racism, okay, of course. We could talk about historical disparity that has been a product of a long history of inequality due to a certain contextual, like, racial relation. We can definitely consider that. That's of course. I mean, if one group starts, if you have a race, a running race, right? A black guy and a white guy. You give the white guy 100 feet head start. gun fires, they race. Let's just say they have the exact same power and they're running at the same speed. No one's stronger, no one's faster, they're equal. You fire that gun, who do you think is going to win the race? Of course, the white guy's going to win the race. Not because he's any better, not because he's any stronger, not because he's any faster or quicker. It's because he had a little head start. Common sense. That head start we could consider the disparity. Let's use this as some type of metaphor or an analogy to what we're experiencing in America today. Let's just say today is the end of that race. And let's say the race started in 1865, post-antebellum era. Who do you think is going to win the race? If now is the end of the race, the white guy's going to be the winner of the race. Is it because he's any better than the black runner? No. He had a head start. We do understand when you have a population of people, quote unquote, so-called whites, that have more advantage in the world at the time, possibly because they were free, never enslaved. And then you have another population of people that weren't free, were enslaved for 100 years prior. And then you let those people free, you give them opportunity. This is called this is called being behind. And the so-called white group we could consider them having a head start in society if we're going to start from that point, right? Now, this is just logic. So what people are trying to do today. Hold on, let me switch screens here. So today people are complaining because there's this big disparity, right? People are like, "Oh, there's inequality." Well, what the hell do you expect? Okay, now let's think about this. The only way things could be equal now. Okay. And again, of course, there were tons of oppression. All right. There was Jim Crow. All right. There were all types of things that, of course, crop sharing right after slavery. Then there was Jim Crow. And then there were all types of other discriminatory practices and systems within the society. And of course, there's two types of so-called racism. I don't even think racism is properly understood by most people. It's definitely not defined properly. And we're only taking the anti-racism definition. There's many ways to define racism, but just to keep things simple, we could look at it as independent racism. That's racism. One person can have a specific type of prejudice towards others based on phenotype. That's all racism, quote unquote, is. Prejudice that is based on a phenotypical system, value system. And then the other type of racism, what Michael Stokely Carmichael, I believe, coined this in the book Black Power, is this idea of institutional racism. Today they call it systemic racism. Now the interesting thing is it's misrepresented today, because I believe Stokely, his perspective was that there is a large percentage of those in power tend to have this individual racism, and they use their individual racism to make decisions that have an influence or effect on the industry or institution. Therefore, there is this kind of inbuilt racism within the institutions, not based on any magical floating around racist spirit within the system or the institution or that controls the institution, but it's just certain individuals of power within the institutions have individual racism that has this type of residual effect on the result of those who participate within the institution. Today, they would say systemic racism is this ghost that just exists, and the institution is inherently racist, and there's really no way to gauge. It's just there. And they even claim that all white people are racist by their own nature. It's like they're born into the world racist. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts, right? There's no real thought process behind it. It's mainly a motive. Anyhow, I say all of that to say, let's get back to this race. So say we're having this foot race. If we, for instance, we had all of those obstacles. We had Jim Crow and all these other obstacles. Let's put those obstacles in the foot race. we'll put those obstacles in the foot race as potholes. So there's two lanes: the white guy's lane, the black guy's lane. The black guy is 100. The white guy's 100 feet, head start. He has a clean lane, nice and flat. The black guy's lane has holes all in it. Not only does he lack the head start, but he got holes in his lane. The holes will represent Jim Crow, right? Will represent, redlining, and all of these different discriminatory practices that happened throughout the 30s, 40s, 50s. So there's also these obstacles. So of course, through that race, he's going to be tripping and falling. It's going to even be harder for him to catch up. Not to mention there's a head start in as far as the other runner is concerned. So the black runner is always going to be behind. He has these obstacles plus lacking the head start. Of course. Now, what would it take for that black runner to not win the race? Because that would be very difficult, but just to catch up to the white race or the white runner. He would have to be superhuman. He would have to be stronger, faster, more skillful, being able to dodge the holes just to catch up. That would be very difficult. He would have to be way more advanced than the white runner. And again, as we started here, they're equal, right? They're equal runners. So what does this tell you? As an analogy, we could look at society. In order for blacks to even be equal at this point since antebellum, we would have had to double what it is that the white population does. We would have to work a lot harder. We would have to be superhuman just to be equal. That's not happening anywhere. It's not possible anywhere. I say that just to, it's very understandable why we are in the position we are in. If you just look historically, you look at the obstacles that were there. Now, the problem is this. BLM and this movement wants to blame everything on white people. That's not that. It's counterproductive, for one, because you're not taking any accountability at all. It becomes a blame game, which really just holds you back and makes you codependent. So it's counterproductive to any type of liberation or rehabilitation for a racial group, right? Not only that, but you also have to realize that just like in the race, you'd have to be stronger, right? You'd have to be more skillful, right? To catch up. What does that mean? That did the white runner give that black runner that extra strength? Did he provide that for him? No. He had to provide that for himself. What I'm trying to get at is, in order to, when you're behind, when you start off behind, when you start off at a disadvantage, regardless of what obstacles you're given, you have to step up the game. You have to be stronger. You have to be faster. You have to be well or better put together, more focused. You have less time for mistakes. There's less room for mistakes. You can't slack off. You have to be on your game. So what I would say as an analogy, this means the black community would have had to be on their game, decade by decade. What have we seen over history? The opposite of that. We could look at the sexual revolution. We were too busy getting high, having sex. And then we had the Black Power movement, which wanted to start some black nation, wanted to use violence, went the Frantz Fanon route, which got us nowhere. Right? So we got all confused by that movement. And of course, the disco era came in the 70s. And what came right after the disco era? Hip hop. Hip hop was the destruction of the black community single-handedly. Now, I love hip hop music. I don't love the culture. I don't love the mainstream music. I'm not blaming everything on the music here. But what I'm getting at is the culture is what has always kept this population behind and in an arrested developmental state. It's not the white man. It's not white people. And it's not racism. solely. Though there plays roles. There is a power dynamic. Of course, we understand that. It's a given. If you look at the history, what do you expect? I mean, we would have had to have been superhuman to even tie as behind as we were in the beginning, as things started. You got one population of people that have been building civilization for hundreds of years in the West. And then you start off with another population that has been slaves. How can you even begin to think that there will be some equality, even after 100 years or so? It's literally impossible. So I said I just wanted to start with that so we could just get a little understanding of how ridiculous some of this race stuff is, how ridiculous some of these arguments are, and how misguided things are. It becomes a symbolic war. They want to take down monuments. They want to change flags. It's all symbolic. None of that has to do with the real issues. None of that has to do with the real problems in the Black community, which go back decades and generations. And I would say they started with the Great Society programs of LBJ, which just were totally, I guess, increased with the counterculture. And then that was even further developed with the introduction of hip hop music and hip hop culture. Drug culture, gang culture, all of these things that developed over time have all compounded in a way to create a disease that has festered generation after generation. And upon this, what you also had is an anti-intellectual movement. And this anti-intellectual movement within the Black community has demonstrated itself by not wanting to succeed academically, by looking at academics as white, by looking at proper English as speaking white. This anti-intellectual culture has single-handedly kept the Black population from excelling in education. And I don't support the education compulsory system at all. But what I'm saying is education isn't just the compulsory system. Education is a culture of learning. The culture of learning, meaning you grow up with I had a case of encyclopedias from, I can't even remember. It was just part of my life, was digging into those. When I was bored, I would read encyclopedias. I had a massive library of all of these it was kind of like one of these Black history, Black culture kind of educational, it was like basically all the Black leaders in history, and they all had their own book. I used to just love reading those. And this was given by my family. They supported, they provided this education, these educational like outlets for me. That's a culture of learning. Now that's rare in the black community, especially today. Now it wasn't in the 40s and the 50s. It was commonplace. Just a culture of learning develops an understanding of the world around you. It develops identity. It develops confidence. And with that culture of learning, you're giving a culture of God. You're giving righteousness through the religion, through Christianity, through the faith, the morality, the moral and ethical foundation of the Christian worldview. Along with that, you're given this culture of learning through knowledge of worldly knowledge, secular knowledge, an understanding of the human state, human beings, human societies, all of these things together. It creates a developed, stable, motivated, and I'd say ambitious human being. These ideas are completely absent in the general. Now, I'm saying general. I'm speaking generally here. And the general, and there's not a Black community. It doesn't exist. We are not a monolith, okay? But I'm just speaking generally here. There's a large population within the Black community where these things do not exist at all. Trust me, I grew up around it. It may not have been my specific family, but I was raised around all of this. I've experienced it firsthand. And it's true. I'm not going to deny these things. I've dealt with a lot of this crap my whole life. Just knowing things, you become some type of, outsider. You become some type of, like, an enemy almost. There's a great book, got it right here, by Thomas Chatterton Williams, called Losing My Cool. It's an amazing tale. It's so poignant. It's just, it hits, man. And it's hard truths you don't want to hear. But it's like, you grow up in this community, and you're kind of like they expect you to be a certain way, just like we're expected to be leftists. We're expected to be Democrats. We're stuck in this state of mind that if you step out of it, something's wrong with you. You're not playing your slave role. And I'm sick and tired of it. And what I see with Black Lives Matter and all of these other supporting groups is this program, this socially engineered, quote unquote, black token program. And it's sick, man. It's sick. And it's all the chessboard. It's the chessboard game. We have so many issues in our community that need to be addressed. A lot of them have to do with child rearing. The majority of them have to do with child rearing, right? Absent fathers taken out of the home by way of culture, by way of crime and violence. Mothers deceived by culture. Mothers spending too much time on their damn phones, taking pictures, twerking and stuff, not raising their damn kids. Okay, now this isn't just the Black community. Trust me, this goes across the board. It's just when you are behind, these types of behaviors affect you on a deeper level. Everyone's affected by this programming. Don't get it twisted. This social engineering is uniform. It's ubiquitous. It touches everybody. Anybody can get it, and everybody's going to suffer. We all are. But when you're part of a group that is a lot more behind than others due to historical matters, these kind of things affect you on a deeper and more severe level. There's homicide in every group. We get it. Everybody kills each other. But when you look at our group, it's at a much higher percentage. It's affecting a lot larger part of our group than others. We got to look at some of these things. These things have to be addressed. And you're not going to hear any of this in the media. You're not going to hear anybody talking about this. For one, they'll be too scared. Or two, they'll just be too controlled, and they'll be part of this machine, part of this black token mind control social engineering machine that's set out to structure human beings into these specific groups just so we fall in line with the grand scheme, this grand globalist scheme where nationality means nothing, where they get us to focus on culture and race and identity, the politics of identity, which keeps us within this stronghold, this globalist stronghold, so they can control us through the technologies and, get us to forget about nationhood. Their aim is to destroy the nation state. That's the goal. That is the goal. And destroy Americanism. Because I'm going to tell you, America is the final frontier. Once we fall, everything falls with it. And this is how they're pulling it off. And isn't it interesting? They're doing it with the population they used to build it. It's just crazy when you think about it. But it's perfect when you think about it. It's perfectly satanic. And this isn't anything white. This isn't anything black. This is something spiritual here. People don't like hearing this stuff, man. They don't. But you know what? Somebody got to say it, and I'm not the only one. It's just you don't hear us. We're silenced. We're pushed under the rug. There's another kid killed recently by cops, allegedly. I want to show you this video here. And it's just their next move. They had the lynching stories a couple weeks ago. People didn't react enough to those. They're trying to really, really get things going crazy right now. They're really trying to stir the pot here. So I just had to get some of that stuff off my chest because I'm just seeing too many people falling victim to this ignorance here. And we're being used as a weapon. They want us to defund the police. You know what that's about? Defund the police. See, these people don't even know what it takes to build a civilization anymore. A civilization, for it to work, requires institutions and industries. You take out certain institutions and industries, it's like a house of cards. You pull out one of those cards, the whole thing's toppling down. Law enforcement is needed. It's a structure. It's called security. Now, I'm not saying our system's correct, okay? I'm not saying we're doing it right. But when you want to remove things without anything proper to replace it, you're setting yourself up for disaster. And another thing I find interesting is how they want to defund the police. What are they doing? They're defunding the police enough to lower the percentage of the police force. Let's say 25%. They're going to defund the police to where they could take 25% of the police force away. You guys remember that video I recently showed you about these new AI, machine learning police programs and systems that they're going to be rolling out? What did Dubai say they wanted to have by 2025? They said they wanted to have 25% of their police force controlled through artificial intelligence. My theory is that they don't want to remove the police all the way because they can't. It's just not realistic. But they want to slowly bring in machine security, digital artificial intelligence security. So what they do is they slowly defund law enforcement, and that defunding, what is taken out, is replaced by machine. What we're going to see is once they defund these police, they're going to be taking the police that they're going to be taking away are the ones on the streets, because who's going to replace them? The machines are going to replace them. Now, they might not put the RoboCops out right away. That's down the line. That's down the line. Right away, they'll probably use some type of private global police force. But what they're really going to be bringing in is drones and sensors. We're going to go into that a little bit here. Drones and sensors. You're not going to be able to commit crime because there's going to be so many damn cameras everywhere. The panopticon. There's going to be so many cameras that can sense your heartbeat. It can sense your pulse, your body temperature, your mood. And it will be able to find your identity and be able to track your behavior through the cloud. It's going to have you pinned before you even know it's looking at you. And you make one wrong move, it's calling someone. And there will be an officer there in a matter of minutes. They don't need police anymore. They won't have any purpose for them because we have these automated systems that know who you are before you know you are being looked at. This is all coming. 2025, it will be here in full force. They need just enough time to lower the capacity of law enforcement so it can be replaced. And they need the proper excuse to do it. And this is the perfect excuse. And look at who's being used to bring it in. Every time. Every time. What brought in the Civil War? Civil War wasn't about slavery. Are you kidding? Civil War had nothing to do with slavery. That was a ruse. The Civil War was about uniting the South and the North to create a unitary state. Not only so everyone could be taxed, but so it could start the movement for globalism, to create the American power source, to create that petri dish that the globalists would use to bring forth what we're seeing today. Had nothing to do with blacks, had nothing to do with freeing slaves. It was all part of this grand scheme that we're still seeing developed right now. Every single time. What was the civil rights movement about? Yeah. Okay, there were some votes and some laws were passed, some demonstrations and some very inspirational things happened. That was about bringing in leftism, man. That was about desegregation. That was about integration. That was about globalism. Communism. Who funded the entire civil rights movement from day one? Communists. Martin Luther King went to Highland School, a school for young communists. Guess who was in the same classroom with him? Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was a Highland School communist student. The whole thing was set up from the gate. Just like George Floyd, just like Rodney King, just like O.J. Simpson. All of these things were just mass programming schemes, utilizing the black and white chessboard to bring in the next stage, the next development. This goes back to Nimrod, man. This is very ancient. It's spiritual. Because we could say, well, Nimrod didn't have anything to do with Woodrow Wilson, even though they were kind of doing the same thing. Of course, because it's a spirit. It is a spirit that has utilized mankind to fulfill this long, drawn-out goal. And that's why these atheists and these agnostics, they don't know nothing about what's really going on here. They'll never fully understand it. It's much simpler than everyone wants to make out. So, gosh, I kind of went on a rant there. Oh, man. Okay, well, let's get into this story. Let's get into this NBC here. We got a lot to talk about. So, that's what this racism stuff is about, guys. It's all a game, and you're getting played. Every side is being played like a fiddle. And I'm going to tell you right now, what they're doing is they're building up the response. They're building up the reaction. And that is going to come in this reactive white, this white type of white movement, you know, like a pro-white movement, almost like a white, quote unquote, white power movement is going. This is what they're trying to get to happen. They're trying to piss off the white population enough to where they will start to build their own groups that will be anti-black. It's all the chessboard, and it's going to happen. The race war, this whole old idea, and it started way before Charles Manson. You know where he got it from, doing all that LSD. He had Satan speaking to him. Yes, this is about the race war, and it will be a civil war. It will only be racial, but it will be civil, meaning there will be the conservatives versus the left. This will be Blood Sports 2020. I said it last year. The election is going to kick it off. At least that's their goal. And I think they might be successful because this COVID thing is driving people crazy. It's driving people insane. It's building up so much angst, so much anxiety. It's taking people out of their characters. It's producing all types of spiritual death within people. People just, they can't take it anymore. They're gonna snap eventually. The bubble is gonna burst, right? They're gonna pop the top. And I'm already seeing a lot of violence, man. And the media is not covering this stuff. There's so much violence in areas happening right now. Now it's isolated, mind you. You go outside to most places, everyone's chilling. Everyone is peaceful. There's no racism. There's none of that. Right? But in certain areas, especially these areas, man, that have a lot of liberals and, you know, they're crazy, man. They want blood. A lot of these young people, they want blood. And those conservatives in those hometowns, in those small cities, in those, you know, communities, they're not going to take it, man. And they're strapped. They're strapped. Trust me. Trust me. Don't go to the small towns. They're strapped and they're not afraid to use them. You mix these two things together, you got trouble. You got trouble. And this is what they want. And as soon as this election comes, boy, oh boy. Boy, I don't want to see bloodshed, but I see it coming. And this is all part of the plan. So wake up. Wake up. Don't let it get to you. I know some of this stuff gets under your skin, especially all of this black worship we're seeing right now. They're idolizing the black body right now, and it's patronizing. It's not genuine. It's not sincere. You're being played. They're playing on your vanity. They're playing on your pride. They're playing on your pain. And yeah, we got pain. And yes, we got pride too, and we need to swallow that. That all of that needs to be removed, because that's not going to get you anywhere. And we know what scripture teaches us about this. The pride comes before the fall. And who are they just building up with pride right now? Just inflating us with pride. Making us feel as if we were gods. As if we want to take the role of master now and make everyone else our slave. This reversal, this inversion, it's madness. All right, let's get into this, man. So I want to look at this briefly. We won't go through the whole thing. I mainly want to look at this new story about this young man that was killed because it's very questionable. It has PSYOP written all over it, and I really hope I don't get hit for this. I really hope they let me get away with this one because I gotta show this to you guys, and I'm not afraid to call it out. I'm gonna call it out because I'm sick and tired of these mind games. And it's already started some really big protests in Aurora, Colorado. Again, Aurora. What else happened in Aurora? Think about it, guys. Think about it. I'm going to show this to you guys here. Time is getting short. All right. It's gonna get wild out here, man. I've never seen this before. Like, I've been watching and studying psyops and social engineering for a long time. But man, I've never seen anything like this. You want to talk about multiple disasters? There's no breaks. They're hitting us with, sandstorms and dust storms. If you look at the local news, and I look at the local news all over the United States, the craziest things are happening. And how much of it is real, I'm not sure, but the craziest things are happening. A lot of death, we're going to talk about Chicago in a minute too, which just totally refutes Black Lives Matter altogether. I just got a bunch of stuff to show you guys, and we've already been on here almost an hour, so you better jump into this. Goldie Eyes God says white supremacy is being eliminated. No room for them. See, there we go. That's part of the programming. You're being programmed. White supremacy is not being eliminated. Are you kidding me? What are you even talking about? This is the thing. People think white supremacy is like, how do I explain this? You just got me on a whole other tangent now. Let me tell you something. White supremacy has been used as a weapon against your mind. White supremacy has put shackles around your brain because white supremacy has made you codependent. White supremacy has taken your agency. White supremacy as a concept. Let me tell you something. You grow up in an area where you are behind, where you are oppressed, you are at a disadvantage, and there's a group that's stronger, that has more of an advantage for whatever reason. If you're going to make it in that society, just because you want to claim that these people have some type of supremacy and you want to cry about it, that's not going to take you out of your role. That's not going to increase your experience. That's not going to develop you in any way. It's going to make you, it's going to make you codependent. It's going to take your agency. Okay. And it's going to just make you a slave. Focusing on whoever is in power is the most lowest level thinking possible. You have to rise to the occasion. I was part of a busing program when I was young. I grew up in an area that was low, like basically I grew up in a city that wasn't known for education. It wasn't known for wealth and all of these things. But I was part of a busing program. I was blessed enough to be bused way up north. It used to take me almost an hour to get to school. They don't have those programs anymore. I was part of a busing program where I went to a very good high school. Trust me, I had it. It was hard for me to even survive there. It was very difficult. I didn't complain about white supremacy. I didn't complain about my disadvantages. I stepped up to the plate and I swung. I put everything on the table. I don't care if you're ahead of me. I need to do what I got to do for me. I have to develop myself. I can't rely on someone else to help me develop. And just because I'm not at the same level as you, I'm not going to sit here and complain that you're at a level higher than me. Weak, and it's fruitless. And it just exacerbates your position, your condition. You know, give me a challenge. I love a challenge. Give it to me. I'll prove to you through my actions, through my own ambition. I will overcome. I'm not going to sit here and just stop doing anything because, hey, you got supremacy. I'm inferior to you. You're superior. So I'm just going to sit here and whine and cry until you change the world for me. That's all this is. We sit here and want someone to change the world for us. Change my diaper, please. I'm dirty. I'm going to change it my damn self. And I'm going to keep it moving. There's been so many blacks that have excelled over these years amidst all of this racism, amidst all of this oppression. You know, there's a book, I got several of them, and one day I'll go through them. There's been so many successful black families that have survived through this. Now, yeah, unfortunately, they haven't given much back to the community, and a lot of them started off boule. We got to be real about that. But I will say, a lot of these individuals came from nothing. And they looked past all of the challenges, man. I swear, if I hear one more person talk about white supremacy, I'm gonna have to do a whole video on it and just totally shatter the whole idea, because it's an egregore. Okay, it's a figment of your imagination. It's a disease in your mind. Now, is there disparity? Is there inequality? Is there certain groups in certain nations that have more advantage than others due to historical things? Yes. What is that going to do for you? How is it going to better you to rely and worry about that? Always worrying about what white people are doing. What are you doing? Why do you need someone else to change the world for you to make change? It's stupid. I'm sorry. It's just stupid. And I don't mean to go off on you, whoever that was who said that. I apologize. Forgive me here. Okay. And this stuff, you know, it just gets to me sometimes. I don't mean to, I'm not coming at you specifically. I'm sick and tired of it, guys. You know, because I've seen enough blacks make it. I've seen enough very, very hard-working, diligent, honest, brilliant black people make it with the hardest obstacles before them. I've seen it. So when these people talk about all this victimhood, it just doesn't register with me. Now, it may not be as commonplace. There might be more of a average or median or common experience that has to do with less. But I've seen some high levels, man. You know, I've been blessed to be around some very, very well put together black people in my life. And I am thankful for them. They've given me examples to look up to. And for instance, back during the 60s, man, we had all types of people to look up to, brilliant people. And now, of course, we're supposed to live through Christ, but I'm just saying it from an earthly perspective, just like you have your earthly father and your spiritual father in the Most High God. I'm speaking about the earthly father in this regard. We don't have any of that anymore, man. It doesn't exist. You know what will bring us together? Christ, first and foremost, but our nationhood. Black Americans are Americans. This is our soil, shared with other peoples, regardless of the history that got us here. This is our soil. We belong here. And you're letting them take it away from you. And they're going to turn it into something you are not prepared for. You are not prepared for what's coming. Man. Native Americans, Europeans, Spaniards, black peoples of African descent. This is our soil. Ours. You burning flags. It's just symbolic, okay? I don't care about flags, but let's be real here. If you don't like this country, imagine if you were forced to leave. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you be? You would lose your mind. You are privileged here. It just shows how ill this society is, how ill this generation is. Imagine if they told you to pack your bags and leave this country. You want to burn a damn flag. Something else is going to get burned pretty soon. Okay, let's keep going. Please, Father, guide me. I'm getting a little bit in the flesh here. All right. So let's jump into this thing here. Again, we got this COVID coming. You know, it isn't even the second wave. I call this basically the first wave never happened. Okay, the first wave never happened. So now they're just trying to make it actually happen this time. So check this out.
Cases in that state in just one day.
Texas and remember, as I said in my second wave video, they're going to try to attack the conservative states, right? They're going to take the conservative states and they're going to use them as an example. If you look at the places that they're saying have increased in cases, 100%, it's Montana, Idaho, okay, Wyoming, Texas, Florida. It's absolute nonsense. The mind control here is getting deeper than ever, and they're getting desperate. It's one thing. That's what I'm saying. We got to prepare, guys, because something's coming. Because they're really getting desperate here with these stories.
Reversing some of the reopenings.
We continue to see more COVID-19 positive test results and rising hospitalizations.
Beaches in Miami set to close again, and what the Texas governor wishes he'd done differently. Arizona pushing the limits, not reversing course in its reopening, even as some hospitals fill up and residents wait in line for hours in 105-degree heat to get tested. The super spreading events behind the new outbreaks packed bars, the new science on how they are driving the outbreak. Calls for justice rallies today for Elijah McClain, who died after a violent encounter with police. The outrage after the officers involved were reassigned to desk duty for their own protection.
This one here.
Back to school and exclusively.
That's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at this death here. Wait till I show you guys this video. It's pretty crazy here. I'm going to just get right to it. So we don't really have to focus on the COVID thing. It's obvious what they're doing. You know, we got the masks. We got the mask programming here. That's a whole ritual. It has to do with ritual. It also has to do with, it's a compliance check. It's really about submission. Okay, it's a mixture between a ritual, you know, the covering of the face. It's a ritual. It's symbolic. Okay, but it also has to do with submission. Okay, and also I think that it's a social engineering or social experiment. They're trying to see who will comply and where are the problematics. Where are the problematic thinkers or the problematic population, right? And as soon as they find the problematic sources, they're going to try to snuff them out. And that's, in my view, I think that seems to be what's really going on with these masks.
Miami.
Tonight, another record-breaking milestone for Florida. Nearly 10,000 cases in a single day on the heels.
Oh my goodness. Come on, guys. They don't have a reliable test. I've just got some new data on this. 110 different screen tests are being utilized during this whole thing. 110. Okay. And guess what? Not one is accurate. In fact, all of them are 50. They have a 50% inaccuracy rate. 50%. 110 different companies putting out different tests. How is any of this happening? How is any of this possible? Nearly 10,000 new cases, 9,000 the day before. Are you kidding me? This is all they have to do. And I said this in my second wave video. All they have to do is basically throw some case numbers at you. They don't have to prove anything with real actual death, because see, you can't deny death. You know, people start falling out left and right. If you go outside and people are just in the street dying, you don't, that's all you need. You'll do whatever you're told at that point. You don't say if this was some type of Spanish flu situation. It's not the case. This entire thing is being orchestrated. This entire thing is a creation. It's what is it? It's like a psychodrama. That's what this is. It's a massive psychodrama being formulated around this. It's a simulation of a pandemic. So, yeah. Oh, and mind you, what else is this about? We have Independence Day coming up, July 4th. That's about America. That's an Americana. That's a symbolic expression of America. It's going to be canceled. 4th of July is going to be canceled. Now, they could do some other stuff. Don't be surprised if they pull something on this day or before or after. But what I am thinking is that they want to cancel 4th of July because it's a symbolic way of saying America is dead. The nation state is dead. Nationalism is dead. Your national identity is useless. And we're not going to allow you to celebrate it. Now, I'm not saying to be proud. I'm not saying to have any of that type of worship going on. But just like your heritage, your nationality plays a role not merely in identity, but your purpose in this world. You represent a nation. You know, the Most High God was very clear in Scripture about nationhood. He spoke about nations. He didn't talk about races. And we see what he did with Tower of Babel and Nimrod. So we already know that universalist global direction is not the way to go. God is about nation states. He's about nations. America, for those who are American in this chat here and listening here, that's your nation. Period. Period. They want to. If they can erase this, they own the earth. Because America culturally is somewhat of the vehicle for the world in many ways. It just is. We have to be real about this. Let's continue.
Heels of 9,000 the day before. The surging numbers and positivity rates prompting the mayor of Miami-Dade to close.
Yes, America is done. Stevia rum. Yes, and that's the problem. People, and this has been set up for a long time coming. It's been systematically developing. It's not as if it's supposed to survive. It's been just like the Twin Towers. They were built to be brought down. But this is correct. You are right. This is the end of America. We're watching the opening stage.
Close the beaches from July 3rd to 7th.
If you didn't close down the beaches for the July 4th holiday, what would the potential outcomes be?
Well, look, what we've seen.
If anyone's getting buffering, let me know. I'm not getting any buffering at all on my end, but I saw someone mention buffering. So let me know if I need to, audio or anything. Just please give me some shots out on whatever needs to be addressed.
What we've seen in other holidays like Memorial Day, 2 weeks later we see a spike. And so this was something to stop that.
Not everyone on board with that.
Jeremy Edwards seems to have some negative words for me here. Why so emotional, brother Jeremy?
Decision.
I think for me, pretty athletic, eat healthy, work out, I'm not worried about it.
Honestly, I just think it's all politics in the end.
There we go. Someone had a little truth there. It's all politics, basically. This is a total political movement here.
As the number of cases spikes, testing in some areas blocks long. In the last 2 weeks, more than 10% of all tests in Florida coming back positive. With young people in particular driving those higher rates, Governor Ron DeSantis ordered bars across the state shut down. Bar owners breaking the news to patrons.
How is America dead? Asks Jeremy Edwards. Are your eyes closed? Look around, man. Look around.
I had to, walk up to them and say, unfortunately, we're not allowed to continue serving you. Whenever you finish your
Wow, Joseph Powell with the bomb. George Floyd was killed on Memorial Day. Ding, ding, ding.
For your beverage, please just close out your tab and go about your business.
Florida also a potential liability for professional sports. The NBA preparing to return in Orlando next month. The league announcing it's tested around 300 players and 16 have COVID-19, though they'll be isolated and have to test negative twice in more than 24 hours to return. Texas taking an even more aggressive stance, with Governor Greg Abbott closing bars and reducing capacity at restaurants after infection rates hit double digits. Abbott telling KVIA,
if I could go back and redo anything, it probably would have been to slow down the opening of bars.
There you go, Texas. You know, good old gritty Texas. Look at everyone's folding to this. No one's exempt here. Everyone is folding. This is the demolition. State by state. The United States of technocracy. What is technocracy? A society controlled by technicians, scientific elite, experts. We are now controlled by technicians. Fauci, Musk, Gates. Politicians are nobodies, nothingness. We are controlled by scientism. The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Every state will comply. Every governor will bend the knee. No one is exempt. And this is how they're going to do it. Directly through this multifaceted, multiple disaster program of disease, racism, weather. It's brilliant.
Bars.
This, as the Houston area has already reached 100% ICU bed capacity.
No, I'm not telling anybody to leave Surrender Radio. No. Don't leave, because it's going to probably be just as bad, if not worse, in other places. There's nowhere to go. It's not about running. It's not about fear. It's about preparation. Change is coming. But I would also argue God is coming.
And the crunch for care extending to other parts of the state, too.
They can't even understand, why could you just let my loved one sit in an emergency room that is so ill? And where do we need to go?
For families impacted by Texas.
Another thing they're doing is they want people to take this seriously. I think I need to eventually do this. I have a bunch of clips of them saying the word serious. And the sentence, take this, you need to take this, or we are taking this, or people need to take this seriously. You'll see the word seriously all throughout these different stories. And it's because they know people are waking up. They realize that there's not enough evidence of this thing to be real. So what they do is they keep bringing out these stories to scare you. And in these stories, they always put that word in there, seriously. You know, this is very serious. Or, you know, we need to take this seriously, or more people need to start taking this seriously. And it's just it's a style of programming to get you to take it seriously. It's suggestive word magic, lesser magic. This is all lesser magic at the end of the day. You know, the high magic, you know, the woo-woo, none of that's necessary. They don't need to do that. They use a lesser magic. It's suggestive lesser magic through suggestion and through word associations, different type of hypnosis, psychological hypnosis, different types of MK Ultra, NLP. They use all these things are forms of lesser magic, and that's what you will find embedded in all of this media. And I spent a lot of time digging through this stuff, and it's very easy to pick it out, especially when you're trained. I'm traditionally trained in psychology, so I understand a lot of these different techniques, and it's interesting to me to see how much of it is actually in the media. It's like, wow, they must have they have to have a board that literally discusses on you know, of course, if you read what's his name, Walter Lippmann's Public Opinion is just one source of this, but they really have methods to control the thoughts of groups. It's very, very interesting.
Immigration detention centers. A judge ordering children held for more than 20 days must be released by the middle of next month, describing conditions in those facilities as on fire with COVID. A virus invading all areas of society, forcing new and immediate action with human life hanging in the balance.
Do you hear that? Do you hear this? It's like a horror film. Human life hanging in the balance. You know, it's like we're at the brink of disaster. Like the whole world is caving in, and no one could see any evidence of this phantom menace anywhere. It's just very, very strategically planned out media. It's all garbage.
And Sam joins us now.
Look at his little, I believe this is like a sparkly mask. I was cracking up when I saw this. I was like, wow, look at this dude. It's like he got a little sequence mask. I don't know, that's not necessarily sequence, but it's pretty funny. Real cute, man.
Now from Miami Beach, Sam, what happens if cases continue to surge in Florida?
On the beach in a full face mask. Okay.
Florida.
Yes, Tavistock, Sandra Kippert. Dr. Lewin, absolutely.
In South Florida, the mayor of Miami-Dade County, Kate, describing this as a reverse reopening. You would start with the beach closures, which could be extended beyond the July 4th holiday, then gyms.
Maybe that's not sparkly. I think those are specs. I don't know. It looks hilarious to me either way.
Salons, dance studios, and eventually even restaurants, if necessary. Kate?
All right, Sam Brock for us in Florida. Sam, thank you. Another COVID hotspot, Arizona. Today, cases are surging and testing sites are overwhelmed. But the state is sticking to its reopening plan, and doctors there are.
Isn't it interesting? Testing the limit. There's not an accurate test, guys. Not one. Matter of fact, there's 110 different versions, and they're all 50% inaccurate. Amazing. But we're literally changing our lives. We're controlling the movement of entire populations state by state on falsified, inaccurate, unreliable testing results. Very, very interesting, isn't it?
Are increasingly anxious about what happens next. Vaughn Hilliard is in Phoenix.
There's going to be a bit of a wait. We're currently on hold, okay? We want to make sure we have enough tests for everyone.
Tonight, Arizona hitting a record number of new cases.
Poor
the state
people.
is one of the worst coronavirus hotspots in the country.
Last night from hospital.
Let's get to the main story.
Days to even find a testing slot, and that, of course, it's not ideal because we need to start contact tracing immediately.
Hospitals are now on the brink.
We're going to go into some specifics here in a minute. I just want to get through some of these stories, but I want to go into some specifics about where this is leading, and I want to talk about some specific technology that's coming out. But contact tracing, remember that. Tracing and surveillance are the two main things that all of this is about. Not just COVID, but also the race stuff. Okay, of course we have the new AI law enforcement, but the tracing plays into that as well. And I touched on quite a bit of this in one of my more recent videos where I went into the police state that's coming. But well, I'll get into it in a minute. Let's just keep going here.
Beds filled to 87% capacity. Dr. Natasha Bouillon giving this dire warning.
I'm really worried about where this is going in Arizona. I think people are starting to take it seriously, but we are seeing this surge.
Did you hear that? Seriously, I think people are starting to take this seriously. They always say that, and it's multiple times in one story they'll have different people say that too. And they even have stories of guys like, hey, you know, I had no symptoms and now I'm sick. You guys got to take this seriously. I have so many stories where this is said. It's just crazy. It's very low level, but this kind of mind control actually really works on the population.
Dr. Natasha Bouillon giving this dire warning.
I'm really worried about where this is going in Arizona. I think people are starting to take it seriously, but we are seeing this surge in cases. We're not seeing it slow down.
Vaughn joins us now from Phoenix. Vaughn, why did the vice president cancel his campaign appearances in Arizona and in Florida next week?
That's right, Kate. An official now saying it's out of an abundance of caution, but that the vice president still expects to meet with the governors and local officials about the coronavirus.
Another interesting thing is they're not lying to us when they say these terms, because coronavirus is a very vague term. It's just it's a category for multiple so-called viruses. There's no such thing as a coronavirus. There's different types of coronaviruses. So when they say coronavirus, they're not talking about anything. Isn't that interesting? Like, they even word it in a way that lets them escape the, being accused of lying. Because Just saying coronavirus means nothing. COVID-19 is a set of symptoms. It's not a disease. It's not a virus. COVID-19. It's COVID-19. When you look into the scientific literature, COVID-19 is just the label for a set of, I believe, 5 different symptoms. That's all COVID is. It's not anything. It's literally a theoretical term. It's fascinating. They're not telling you anything when they say these words. And we apply all types of meaning to them. This is what's so interesting about mind control and suggestion is you could really manipulate the thoughts of people by just getting them to perceive things that truly aren't there at all.
All right, so just the campaign appearances canceled. Vaughn, thank you. In their latest briefing, the White House task force linked these surges that we're seeing to...
Oh, this is good. The super spreader. So this is a new term they're using a lot now, super spreader. Now, let's find out where they say the super spreaders are. That's the funny part, because if you see anybody that's, gathering at the highest number in the most areas, it's the protesters. But what's the one thing they never mention as super spreaders? Of course, the protesters. Everything else except the protesters. This is just proof this entire thing is political.
The younger adults going out in crowds.
Younger adults going out in crowds. Let's see which crowds they mention.
There's new science tonight on just why bars can be such super spreading events.
Bars.
Dasha Burns reports.
Bars.
As restrictions lift, the bars are back and they're packed. Big crowds in states like Florida, Arizona, and Texas, where COVID cases are on the rise, primarily among young people. In Miami-Dade County, the number of known coronavirus cases among 18 to 34-year-olds increased 5-fold.
Ooh, graphs, colors, numbers. I believe you now.
In just 1 month. Communities are now tracing these outbreaks back to bars and restaurants. 21-year-old Adriana Carter in San Marcos, Texas, went out for a few...
Oh, check this out. This is funny.
...few drinks with friends.
I had a really long, stressful week. What harm could that do, just one night?
And came home with COVID.
And came home with COVID. Hey, I had a rough day at work, wanted to, take a load off, went to the nearby bar and had a drink, and I came home with COVID. Yet you got thousands, literally thousands of people out and about, gathering by the thousand, protesting. Yet nothing is said about it, nothing at all. This is happening all over the United States. We got Kentucky, we got Colorado, we got New York, we got Washington, D.C., Tampa, Florida, New Orleans, Little Rock, Arkansas. Thousands of people. Yet, it's the bars, right? And this is happening every single night, all across the United States, city by city, state by state. And it's not mentioned once. And trust me, all of these people... they're not wearing masks. They're not wearing masks. Trust that.
Jacob, who is that?
So let's bring this back.
Passing it on to her roommate. The rise in cases is coinciding with the rise in spending. Data from Chase Bank shows that millennials spent more money last month than any other age group. Health experts say places like bars are a perfect storm for transmission.
People in close proximity, poor air circulation, people not wearing masks or having to take their masks off to drink or eat.
This video shows what happens when two people are...
That's nothing but they're just... what you're seeing there, I believe, is just heat. I think that's all that's really detecting is heat, not germs or viruses. It's just the images and the visuals they show us are just so manipulative.
Talking. As one person speaks, particles enter the air, and if they carry the virus, it could spread. The college town of Iowa City has seen an uptick in COVID cases since bars reopened with...
So it's the bars. It's the young people in the bars. That's where the uptick came from. Right? Okay.
Out crowd restrictions.
I definitely wasn't taking it as serious as I should have.
What did he say, guys? Let's run that back. Run that back. Mind control programming here. Here we go.
Crowd restrictions.
I definitely wasn't taking it as serious as I should have.
Jacob Hansel, a student at the University of Iowa, says he was exposed when he shared a Juul with others at a friend's house.
Would you have changed your behavior now seeing the effects of it all?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Obviously, if we just wore masks,
Would you change your behavior? AKA behavior modification. And what does he say? Wear your mask.
oh, yeah, for sure. Obviously, if we just wore masks, spaced out a little bit farther and not shared a Juul.
A striking example that one night out is all it takes.
One night out is all it takes, yet they've been protesting by the thousand every single night out of this month and I believe last month.
Dasha Burns, NBC News, Iowa City, Iowa.
Tonight, the White House is responding to
Okay, we won't go into this Russia thing because this is a whole new psyop that just kind of opened up over the week. So we won't spend any time on that just because I haven't done much research and it's just more Russia nonsense and I just don't have time for it nor the energy. So let's go into the shooting, or it's not a shooting this time, actually. It's just a death. Oh, and I guess Mississippi is voting to change the flag to take the the Confederate flag piece out of the state flag of Mississippi. This is more symbolic destruction. Now I don't have any. I don't know if the whole Confederate flag thing. You know, I'm not from the South, so I don't really have that type of cultural connection. But I think just changing something symbolic is pointless. It doesn't do anything. It's cosmetic at the end of the day. You know, it's emotive. It doesn't change or address the real issues. We don't need to change the symbolism of racism from our past. We need to change the true issues that are keeping back certain communities from excelling in the world. And those issues do not circulate around one thing, i.e. racism. They actually entail many different things that need to be addressed. Okay, homicide is the #1 killer of young men 16 to 34. And it's not by cops, guys. These are very easy to get data. All right, homicide. All right, and it's not by cops. That's something we need to be addressing when we see BLM who's talking about black trans lives matter. Less than 1% of the population. I think I could count the deaths on my hands. But that's what they focus on. Right? When the main issue in the black community as far as lives are concerned is saving the lives of young black men in inner cities. Those are the lives we need to be fighting for if we're going to try to save lives. I mean, all lives matter, of course, don't get me wrong. But if we're going to continue black lives, if we're going to consider black lives, I think that's something that should be addressed. And it's not. In fact, it's ignored by BLM because it's not. It doesn't fit into the political scheme that they're part of. I mean, Black Lives Matter is merely a globalist communistic movement. It's a program. It has nothing to do with Black lives. That's my thing. When people say Black Lives Matter, of course Black Lives Matter. But Black Lives Matter, the movement, doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Because they're not about black peoples. They're about the LGBTQ, ABC, ITGA, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what they're about.
Be signed by the governor. Mississippi is the last state in the country with that imagery on its state flag. In New Jersey, Princeton University announced today it is removing Woodrow Wilson's name from buildings on that campus, citing the former president's racist thinking.
It's so patronizing. And you know what it does? It's actually insulting because you think that we're so simple-minded that this will appease us, that this will make us feel like there's been some change in the world. By symbolically manipulating us, you think this is going to make any group feel better, or is like this is going to help anybody? Like this is going to change the condition of inner city families. Like this is going to change the experience of young black children in inner cities. What is this going to do for anyone other than make the people doing it feel good about themselves? Feel like they're doing something. They're fighting the battle. They're fighting the power. They're taking down white supremacy. It's stupid.
And policies. Tonight, renewed outrage following the death of another young black man stopped by police. Protesters took to the streets demanding more action be taken against the police involved in the incident. David Gura reports from Aurora, Colorado.
This is disturbing, guys. This is probably one of the weirdest psyops I've seen. I don't know if you guys have seen this footage, but play pay close attention to this, and I'll play it again. I'll run it back. This one is weird. I've never seen anything like this, and I think this is something we need to pay a little more attention to because it's much different from the other ones. Even though it kind of has the same psyop feel, you'll see what I mean.
Tonight, protesters calling for change and charges.
I think more needs to happen.
Hundreds marching in front of the police department and municipal building.
Oh, a lot of people, protesters blame police for death of Elijah McClain. Look at that. Look at all of these people who have come out for poor Elijah. Now, if this young man really died, may he rest in peace. And you know, this is a sad thing. It's sad when anyone dies. But I think on June 25th, a 12-year-old girl shot while playing with friends on West Inglewood Street. A 12-year-old girl playing with friends outside suffered a graze wound in a shooting earlier Thursday in the West Inglewood neighborhood. The girl was on the sidewalk in the 6800 block of South Walcott Avenue about 1:15 a.m., which is kind of late for a 12-year-old to be on the street. But anyways, I guess that speaks to the family dynamic. When someone in a white SUV drove past, and a person in the vehicle fired shots, according to a police media notification. The girl felt pain when she suffered a graze wound to the lower back and was taken to Comer Children's Hospital, where she was in good condition. The girl had been playing with friends in the street before the shooting, according to police spokesman. Now, has anyone mentioned anything about this poor little girl who almost lost her life? Not a word. Oh, 1-year-old boy killed.
A 20-month-old boy shot and killed while riding his mother's car. He is the latest victim of gun violence in Chicago. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jackie Bang.
And I'm Gaynor Hall, in tonight for Tamon Bradley. Let's get right to WGN's Megan Dwyer for the very latest. Megan.
Gaynor and Jackie, another violent Saturday in Chicago.
Another.
A mom and her son were actually on their way to the laundromat when there was a drive-by shooting around 2 o'clock today. Someone opened fire on their car.
Someone.
I just want to sit on the side of the curb and shake my head and cry.
Pastor Donovan Price says he...
Now those are real cries. That's justifiable pain. That's sincere pain.
Held the boy's parents today while they sobbed.
This world is becoming the kind of world that you really almost don't want your child in.
Around 2 this afternoon,
Where's Black Lives Matter? Where's the street protesters? Where's the concern for black lives?
22-year-old mom was driving south on Halstead to the laundromat when a car pulled up alongside her at 63rd Parkway and opened fire.
Now, you know damn well if that was a white man in that car, they would have been very specific of who the driver and shooter was.
Her 20-month-old son was behind her in his car seat.
No doubt we'll catch the person who did it, but that's not going to bring that kid back.
A bullet in his chest. The boy was pronounced dead at St. Bernard Hospital. His mother suffered a graze wound to her head. Police say 7 to 8 bullets hit the car.
Man.
I don't think it was random because of the amount of times it was fired upon.
Just last weekend, a 3-year-old boy was shot and killed in a car in
Just last weekend, a 3-year-old shot and killed.
South Austin.
When is this going to stop?
And that wasn't even very long ago.
When are we going to say enough is enough?
Enough is enough. That sounds familiar, doesn't it?
The father, this hurts me to the core.
Activists say, unfortunately,
it's almost as if we're so twisted. We have such cognitive dissonance and we have such self-hatred that we actually we accept and we overlook our own death by our own hands, yet act in a completely contradictory fashion when we are killed by others. This says something much deeper about our people. And this has nothing to do with whites. This has nothing to do with racism. This has much to do with an intrinsic, deep-seated, heavily rooted deficiency, spiritual and physical. Something we are not addressing. Something we are completely ignoring. More of us die day by day due to these matters, opposed to the blue. But what are we focused on? We're focusing on the police, who are clearly the only ones assisting us in these situations, as you can see. Fascinating.
The toddlers won't be the last children to die violently this summer.
The problem is not being addressed.
Boom. Thank you. Somebody say it.
Because the problem is too ugly for people to look in the face.
They want leaders to treat violence on the South and West sides like the pandemic.
This is another virus that we have to fight.
It is. It's the true virus.
With resources, treatment, and systemic change.
We are so focused on everything else but cleaning up the streets on the South and West sides. While folks are in Lincoln Park running and jogging, walking their dogs, retail, and it's heaven on earth. Folks in Inglewood can't even drive to the laundromat.
It might lead to an arrest. Mayor Lori Lightfoot today tweeting that she is tired of funerals. She is tired of burying our children.
Oh, she's tired of the funerals and tired of burying children, but she
Megan,
clearly ain't too tired to support all this other nonsense that's going on. You know, it's madness. So let's get back to the protests. Let's get back to the real movement, right?
In Aurora, Colorado, demanding justice for Elijah McClain, who died after police detained him last August. Late yesterday, police say 3 officers involved were moved to non-enforcement duties, reassigned for their own safety.
They should not have jobs at this particular point. And like I said, charges need to be brought up against them because it was murder, what was done.
An internal investigation had found that the officers followed all proper protocols. The governor has now started a new independent investigation. McClain was 23 years old, heading home from a neighborhood convenience store. You can see him in this newly obtained surveillance footage.
It was always his juice and his snack. He would come and put it on the counter and then buy with cash mostly, and then give a bow before leaving the store.
After he left, he was walking and dancing, wearing a ski mask. Someone thought that was suspicious and called 911.
Let's just run it back real quick. So, wearing a ski mask, someone thought it was, strange, I guess. Why would that be strange during a time of COVID when everyone's kind of masked, right? That doesn't make much sense. And it's funny how they always humanize the victims. Oh, he was dancing, he had a bag of Skittles, It's always one of these stories. So I'm going to run it back. Just, watch how weird and suspicious this is, especially how he dies. Check it out.
New independent investigation. McClain was 23 years old, heading home from a neighborhood convenience store. You can see him in this newly obtained surveillance footage.
It was always his juice and his snack. He would come and put it on the counter and then buy with cash mostly, and then give a bow before leaving the store.
After he left, he was walking and dancing, wearing a ski mask. Someone thought that was suspicious and called 911.
Stop. I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious.
The police stopped him and pinned him down using a chokehold.
I can't breathe correctly.
During the struggle, paramedics injected Elijah with ketamine, a sedative. He died a few days later in the hospital.
He deserves justice. They murdered my friend, and nothing happened. They got to go back to work.
Now, come on, guys. Come on. How fake does that look? I mean, someone said it happened last August. Oh, that's a stoic. Good to see you, man. Long time. So this story is from last August? I literally just stumbled upon this. That's crazy. Again, they're always bringing back some old stuff. That's why this is programming, because they're searching. If that's the case, I would say this. If that's correct, it seems to be this like, okay, we need to, at this moment, on this date, we need to kind of create an uproar. We need to kind of stoke some social discontent. We need to create a crisis. So let's search back and find a story that works. Did you guys see they injected him with, they said ketamine? I mean, has anyone ever heard of that before? Maybe I'm ignorant. I don't know. Ketamine? That's a cat tranquilizer. I don't know. Somebody tell me. Am I tripping? Or it's just weird. And that girl was, that's a crisis actor if I've ever seen one. But let's run it back. And what did he say? What did he say, guys? He said specifically, I can't breathe correctly. I mean, who talks like that when they're in a situation like that? I can't breathe correctly. Just the word correctly. If you can't breathe, why would you use that term? You think it'd be a little more truncated, right? I can't breathe correctly. It's just weird. It's just so weird. Let's run this back. I hate to be insensitive about this, guys, but I'm so desensitized. I'm sorry.
Give a bow before leaving the store.
After he left, he was walking and dancing, wearing a ski mask. Well, someone thought that was suspicious and called 911.
Stop. I have a right to stop you because you're being...
And I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious. I think that sounds suspicious right there. That sounds like a line. That sounds like a line from a bad script from a C-grade movie. Stop. I have the right to stop you because you are being suspicious. I'm being suspicious? How so? How suspicious am I being? Like, what is this?
Being suspicious.
The police stopped him and pinned him down using a chokehold.
Using a chokehold, right? And what did they just recently outlaw? Chokeholds, correct? Everything's specifically designed, and it's so doctored. It's so contrived.
Stop you because you're being suspicious.
The police stopped him and pinned him down using a chokehold.
I can't breathe correctly.
During the struggle, paramedics injected Elijah with ketamine, a sedative. He died a few days later in the hospital.
How weird is this story? It's like, now what does it do? It's just like a film, where they just give you a little taste. Now everybody's going to be like, what killed him? The hospital killed him. They killed him. See, they're always killing black men. It's just, man. God. I'm sorry. Yeah. Hey, this stuff is hard to deal with, man. I'm going to tell you.
He deserves justice. They murdered my friend.
They murdered my friend. I mean, just look at her eyes. And of course, she got the mask on, so we can't really see her bad acting fully. But I could see it right through her eyes. I could hear it in the tone of her voice. I could see her hand movement. It's just so fake.
Elijah with ketamine, a sedative. He died a few days later in the hospital.
He deserves justice. They murdered my friend, and nothing happened. They got.
Two days later in the hospital.
He deserves justice. They murdered my friend, and nothing happened. They got to go back to work.
In recent weeks.
You see, it's back to that whole, they just kill us and then they go back to work. It's just scripted. It's the same script. It's like every single one of these things are connected through words and through context. So this is the big one right now, this Elijah McClain death. This had Aurora, Colorado on fire. Not literally, but just a lot of demonstrations last night. I was watching them. I actually recorded some of the protests there. So this is just the way they keep stoking the flame with these new deaths that they're pulling out of left field. According to Esther Stoic, this happened in last August. So imagine all of the different unreported stories that they could pull from last year or the year before. It's too easy for these people. And they got us on pins and needles. They got us stressed out. They got us all puffed up with pride racially. So of course, man, of course. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys that. Now let's get into some other things here. I got some other stuff to go into. Let me see how we're doing on time. I don't mean to keep you guys so late. If we're going on too long, let me know. We could we can close up shop. But actually, no, we were okay. Hour and 45 so far. That's not bad. Yeah, just cut and paste stories, says Nisha. Exactly. Cut and paste stories. Perfectly said. That's a great way of describing this situation. It's cut and paste, man. Cut and paste. Goodness. All right, so I think that was all for this clip. Yeah, that's good. We'll close that out. Pull this up real quick here, see how we're doing. Wow, we over the okay, we got a full house, 700 something. Amazing. Thank you for being with us. And now we're going to go a little deep. Now we're going to get into some, now I want to unveil something for you guys here, okay? So I've kind of been doing some little research here and there, and I'm trying to figure out, what is this really about? What is this really about? Because this is deep. This is deep. I've never seen so many psyops happen back to back so succinctly. And there has to be some kind of program. There has to be some kind of methodology behind this, right? And I think I might have discovered that methodology. And it's actually a governmental program, okay? And it goes by a specific term. I'm going to pull it up here for you guys. Let me make sure this is the next thing I want to go into. Is we have biotech, chessboard. I think we should go into this now. Yeah, let's go into this now. So this, let me pull up this. This is interesting, guys. All right. This is what I believe we are seeing here. What's happening to us right now is something called unconventional warfare. Now let me pull this up so you guys can see. Unconventional. Get some more tea here. Can you guys see that? I'm going to pull it up on the full screen in a second. Let me just. Oh man, my tea's gone. The last cup. All right, we got to make this one last. Okay. Unconventional warfare. I believe this is what we are specifically dealing with right now. Possibly. Now, what is unconventional warfare? Let's go into it. This is a pocket guide. You can get this right off of the internet. This has been released. I think this is from 2016. This purpose of this document is to provide a pocket reference of the unconventional warfare UW doctrine, concepts, academic inquiry, and suggested supplementary reading from military leaders and planners. So this is military guerrilla warfare, a style of guerrilla warfare. Very, very. It's a social engineering warfare technique. Okay. Let's see. Let me pull this up. Let's see here. Let me pull it up. Full screen. All right. There we go. There we go. Now you guys can see it. A lot clearer. So we won't go through the whole thing because it's actually very long, but we're going to go to some specific things. This guide is a quick reference of unconventional warfare theory, principles, and tactics. We already read that. The term UW often elicits strong responses, both negative and positive, though many have a fundamental misunderstanding of the term itself. Okay, we won't go into all that detailed stuff. So this is a pretty interesting diagram here. It's hostile nation state, friendly nation state. So this is irregular warfare. That's another term for this. It's basically social engineering, domestic warfare, or domestic terrorism. So what we have here is the friendly nation state. I call this is the COVID situation. Then we have the hostile nation state. This is the BLM, Antifa, communist kind of, it's somewhat of a revolution. So with the hostile nation, this is support an insurgency or resistance movement against a nation state. So this is similar to what we've learned with Hegelian dialectic when you control both sides. So they control the insurgency. Well, a good example of this is like, say, when we create ISIS, or when we create the Taliban, and we support the Taliban or ISIS to break down other countries and bring down other nation states. This is when we support the bad guy on the inside. This is called the friendly nation state. This is support a nation state against an insurgency, resistance, or terrorists. This is like when we would support Iraq or something, right? We want to help. We want to play the good guy. This is where we play the good guy, but we also support the bad guy. Right? This is exactly what we're seeing right now, in my view. We are supporting an insurgency, which is Black Lives Matter. This is made to take down our nation state. But on the other side, we have another. So multiple disasters, multiple crises. The goal is to create crisis. If you do any research into political warfare, any type of geopolitical warfare, domestic terrorism, crisis is always a way to get things moving. And when you create a crisis, you completely, you can negate the Constitution. You can negate sovereignty. Whenever you bring forth crisis, this is why Trump announced so very early that we're in a state of emergency, because this way anything can happen and you have no safety, you have no sovereignty. So what we're having on the friendly nation state, this is the COVID situation. So here we have COVID. COVID's kind of the bad guy, but the nation state is going to fight the bad guy, right? So supporting nation state against an insurgency. We have an insurgency of a pandemic, right? Of a disease, of a virus. So now our government is helping us. This is why they want to give us all of these, we got Fauci and we have all of these different medical assistants and all these programs, and Bill Gates has stepped in and he's playing this massive role of savior, and America, we're gonna beat this thing, we're gonna beat out China, we're gonna be the frontliners, or the forerunners of this movement here. So we have the friendly nation state, and then we have the hostile nation state, and they're doing both of these at the same time. That's what's very interesting about this. So let's see here. So we have all these different terms. Okay, so for the friendly nation state, we have what is this? Counterinsurgency. Okay, so that's what COIN is. So here we have COIN. That's counterinsurgency. So our counterinsurgency is like Fauci, right, or WHO, or CDC, right? We're like, because they're all private organizations. So we're hiring CDC and WHO to kind of come in as counterinsurgency against COVID. We also have counterterrorism, which is CT. So our counterterrorism is also these different, I guess Bill Gates would be good counterterrorism, right? He's trying to take out this disease with his vaccine, right? The vaccine is somewhat of the counterterrorist, right? And so that's kind of how we're dealing with this friendly nation state. Now, the goal of this whole thing is to negotiate a settlement. It's problem, reaction, solution. The solution is the settlement. So let's go down to the main image here. This is the main thing. Okay, so check this out. This is very interesting, man. I found this. I was like, wow. Make it a little bigger for you guys. So the goal, I don't know if that's blurry for you. So the goal is a negotiated settlement. So this is what they need at the end of the day. Public component activities, armed component activities, and underground activities. So everything below this dotted line are all these subliminals, social engineering tactics, and we're going to go through them. So their goals are to negotiate a settlement. The settlement is to get the nation state, the population, to acquiesce to whatever the future goals are, which are the Fourth Industrial Revolution, as Klaus Schwab has demonstrated in his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, which I will be referencing. So that's the goal, globalism. Okay, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the digital state, the panopticon. Okay, the massive globalist surveillance state. That's the settlement. That's what they're trying to negotiate us into, and they're negotiating through. Okay, what do we got to do for you guys? We'll take down these statues. We'll take out the police. We'll provide you a vaccine. We'll do all of these different things to negotiate this idea of having this new state, this new reset, this new world. Okay. International strategic communications. This is what we're doing with China. This is what we're doing with Japan. This is what we're doing with South Korea. This is what we're doing with all the other power states. International strategic communications, which is another form of globalism. Large scale military and paramilitary actions. We're We're actually seeing that happen right now as well. Minor military, paramilitary actions, and shadow governance activities. These are kind of the things that we don't really see. So let's go to the bottom. Clandestine. So we have overt and clandestine. Let's go to the bottom. Now, you know, white papers and some of these things, we always take them with a grain of salt. There's always a little bit of skepticism behind these things, right? Why would they be putting the stuff out here like this? Well, everyone's not doing this research. Most of the people that do this research in this world of 90% sleep people, when we expose this kind of information, they're going to tell us, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you got that off the internet? Why would it be on the internet, right? You get that whole thing. That's reverse psychology. They're very clever. So they know no one's going to believe them. No one's going to really pay attention when people are actually trying to expose these things. So, and sometimes, you know, revelation of the method, right? They tell you what they're doing. They put their plans right out there for you because they know no one's going to believe you. Go ahead, go for it. No one's going to believe you. That's their position. So let's go all the way to the bottom. This is how it begins. Okay. Let's look at the sides first real quick. Preparation of revolutionary cadres and of masses for revolution. Preparation of revolutionary cadres and of massive revolution. This is how they make change. This is how they bring down a nation state through revolution, through getting the society to revolt against the nation state, mainly through an insurgency. And what they do is they fund that insurgency from the outside. They indirectly fund it. We see this happening with Soros, but he's not even, you know, necessarily American. But we see Ford Foundation. We see Google. Mainly Google and Ford Foundation are directly funding Black Lives Matter. Okay, amongst many other organizations that are inherently American. So what they do is they fund the insurgency. They promote the insurgency within the nation state to take down the nation state. Breaking down the nation state to create the global state. That's what we're seeing here. Okay, so let's start with the bottom. How do they begin? How do they start it? Dissatisfaction with political, economic, social, administrative, and or other conditions. National aspiration or desire for ideological and other changes. So they must get the public dissatisfied with things political, with things economic, and with things, or with the social administration, right? And we're seeing that mainly desire for ideological and other changes. What are we hearing right now? What have we been hearing since Obama? Change. Change. What is being used to make change? Racism. COVID. COVID to make change of how we interact regarding things like security. Change regarding racism, not just how we interact, but how our social fabric is created, you know, how our social experience is created, how we interact with each other, how we perceive each other. We're trying to change the way we even perceive each other, right? Dissatisfaction with political. We're dissatisfied with Trump. It's this whole hatred for Trump, right? This whole push, right? They've created this crisis to dissatisfy everyone. Now let's go to the next stage. Creation of atmosphere of wider discontent through propaganda, lies, and political and psychological effort, discrediting government, police, and military authorities. I believe this is where we're at. I believe we are in the second rung, second to last, or should we say second to first. Creation of atmosphere of wider discontent through propaganda. It's widened. How did they widen it? They widened it with George Floyd. After George Floyd, everybody bought in. Not just the state it happened in, but the entire country. Who else bought in? The entire earth. We have people protesting all across the earth right now. All across the earth. Wider discontent through propaganda. What was George Floyd? Propaganda from the outset. Lies, right? Lies. Propaganda, lies, and what's next? And political and psychological effort. Political, of course, we see through the left and right paradigm. And psychological effort we see through the strategically designed, artistically designed media reporting. Everything I've been trying to describe to you guys in all of my videos, this is somewhat of a blueprint to this formation. This is this idea of unconventional warfare. It's unconventional because it's psychological. It's subliminal. It plays on your emotions. It plays on your flesh. It gets you to make the decisions they have preconceived. I believe this is where we're at right now. What's next? Discrediting government, police, and military authorities. Who are we discrediting? Who are we calling to defund, guys? The police. Who's being discredited right now? Donald Trump and his administration for not handling COVID correctly. And he's also now, it's being compounded, he's not handling this race system correctly. In fact, we now have this thing where the conservative right, the Republicans are actually starting to be even, I'd say they're strengthening their positions. They're doubling down. They're trying to protect the statues. And now we have this war between left and right. So, how are we doing in there? We have any trolls today? Because we got a big group in here. Let me know if we have any trolls. If it's because I don't. The reason people might wonder why do I not have moderators? Because I like to have an open forum, right? Anyone's welcome here, as long as you want to learn, as long as you want to debate, respect, with some respect, right? With some sense about yourself, with some reason, anyone's welcome. Disagree or not. But if people are coming in here spamming, just trying to be mean just because they have issues, we don't got time for that. That just ruins the experience. People come here, they want to have an experience of learning and of sharing, right? I will not allow here because that ruins everything. So if we are having that issue here, since we're getting larger groups coming here now, I will have some moderators. And we'll just have to play that role. I don't want things to get Orwellian up in here. I don't agree with any of that censorship stuff. You don't have to agree with me to be here. You're welcome here. I encourage discussion. I encourage, let's reason together. Okay. Scott Allen said everyone is good. Okay. Good to hear. See, when you come that way, you kind of... you attract the kind of audience that, however you come across, you're going to attract that type of audience. So if you bring a certain energy, you're going to bring a certain type of audience. And I try my best to bring, of course, godly, but level-headed people over here because we're just learning and sharing. We're grown folks, mature. No time for the games, you know what I'm saying? All that, you go somewhere else with that. Okay, so let's get back into this. Creation of an atmosphere of wider discontent. Okay. So, I don't know if you guys saw that one before. Let me bring it up more. So next is assassination. Forming favorable public opinion, advocating national cause, creation of distrust of established institutions. Well, we're actually kind of seeing this too. We haven't seen an assassination just yet. So that's why I'm not jumping on the third rung yet. I still think we're here. But assassination is interesting. A lot of people have been mentioning, possibilities with Trump and some of these other people. Very interesting. This is part of the program here, as you can see. So don't be surprised if we see that come about. Now, we could say George Floyd was an assassination, right? That could have been the assassination. That's a possibility too. All of these stories we're seeing coming out about these young black men being murdered could be part of this assassination program that we read here, right? But listen to the words here. It's very, very, very interesting, but very important, right? Forming favorable public opinion. What have we been doing for the past several months here? That precisely, forming favorable public opinion based on mask wearing, right? Based on compliance. Okay, compliance, following the rules, joining the fight against racism, supporting Black Lives Matter is, I'd say, the most important public opinion formation happening right now, guys. Getting you to take a side, shaping your worldview through this type of constructed ideology, i.e. anti-quote-unquote racism. Creation of distrust of established institutions. That's all we're doing. That we're breaking down institutions. We're spray painting and pulling down institutions. We are burning institutions. Not only that, we are closing institutions due to what? COVID-19. Our universities are closed. Our institutions are closed or at limited capacity. They don't even have to get people. They could just create this phantom menace and it's done. Social distancing compliance, absolutely. That's another part of it. Social distancing is a big part of it because it's a part of atomization, forming a society of individual atoms, solipsistic atoms in their own world, hubris, right? So everyone can be controlled separately, individually, through just being in your own bubble, but at the same time having such a lack of insight, being so self-absorbed that you have no real understanding of what's happening around you. Therefore, you are controlled very easily and you follow the crowd because you actually have no substance yourself. This is really what social distancing is about. Of course, there's technology issues that go on with that too. Of course, getting the whole tracing thing involved. That's another big part of it. But there's a psychological component here. It's about destroying you as a person, like turning you into a type of software. That's the ultimate goal of this. They talk about AI. We are the AI. We are the actual artificial intelligence. We are slowly being formed into software. And as soon as the biotechnology comes out, we will be literal software because your data footprint will be you. You will no longer matter. Your data is all that's going to matter. Big data. That is what reality will be ultimately. Your body won't be worth anything. In fact, it will be owned. It will be property of the state. And down that line, we get the mark of the beast. So let's keep going here. Increased agitation, unrest, and dissatisfaction, infiltration of administration, police, and military and national organization, and slowdowns and strikes. What have we been seeing, guys? Strikes, walkouts, protests, infiltration of the administration everywhere. I mean, look at law enforcement. We got all these bad apples, right? Increased agitation and unrest and dissatisfaction. That's all we've been seeing for the past 4 or 5 months. Let's keep going here. Recruitment of like-minded individuals and others, indoctrination and use of these organizational purposes. That's what you will see with BLM. That's what you will see with the leftist pro-COVID movement. Penetration into professional, social, and political organizations and into all parts of society. Aren't we seeing that right now with this whole... I mean, we're seeing a little bit of all of these. Honestly, I think all of these are kind of happening concurrently. I don't really even think this is kind of a step-by-step. I think these are all just different methods that they employ to get us here, to get to the settlement. This is all trauma-based mind control. Everything we're reading here is a blueprint for trauma-based mind control on a society or large population. This can be done from a city level to a nation level. And we're seeing it done nationally, but it's ultimately global. But America is being utilized as the grounds, the bedrock, right? So this is interesting here. Penetration into professional, social, and political organizations and into all parts of society. We're seeing this done through Black Lives Matter. What are they doing? They're changing everything. They're taking out stuff. They're rearranging things. Penetration into professional, social, and political organizations. We're seeing this new anti-racism stuff, this new pro-COVID mask wearing thing. All of this stuff is being implemented into all levels of society, all parts of society. What's next? Spreading subversive organizations into all sectors of life in a country or region. Spreading subversive organizations into all sectors of life. Who's the subversive organization today, guys? Shouldn't be too hard to figure out. That's Black Lives Matter. The most subversive organization there is at the moment. Insurgency, right? This is domestic terrorism. Next, we have establishment of formalized resistance elements, appeal to extraterritorial support infrastructure. Establishment of formalized resistant elements. That speaks directly to Black Lives Matter. Appeal to extraterritorial support infrastructure. That's globalism. We're trying to appeal to the globalist ideal. We're trying to appeal to the World Economic Forum by way of this formalized resistance. Expansion of and a coordination among resistance networks. Intensification of propaganda, increase in dissatisfaction, psychological preparation for revolt. So this is, I guess, when the S is going to hit the fan, right? Overt and covert pressures against government, strikes, riots, and disorders. We've already seen this. All of these things must be part of this whole program. Sabotage and terror to demonstrate weakness of government. What are you seeing right now, guys? There were people on the grounds of the White House. Kids. On the grounds of the White House. They allowed it. CHAP. They allowed this communist anarchist state of mayhem and bedlam. They allowed it. This shows that the governments are weak. The governors are weak. The infrastructure is weak. The state is weak because it needs to be changed. It needs to be reformed. So they have to make it look weak in order to reform it. Increased underground activities to demonstrate strength of revolutionary organization. They're going to make Black Lives Matter and amongst other groups that are going to be coming, they're going to make them look like the powers. They're going to control. I mean, we already see it. They changed the name of a street in Washington, D.C. They called it Black Lives Matter, man. I mean, I know that's just symbolic, but look at the power they're being given. This is exactly what we're seeing here. Intense sapping of moral of government, administration, police, and military. We're already seeing this happen. Negotiations with government representatives, increased political violence, terror, and sabotage, shadow governance activities, and then we move all the way up till we have to negotiate a settlement because it's just getting too much. What are they saying? Enough is enough. I believe that's an Illuminati card as well. I think this is the game plan here, or at least part of it. I think these are just some social engineering tactics. This is kind of a rubric, you know, for deconstructing a society, and it's specifically called unconventional warfare. This is a white paper here. This is a real document. Anyone could look it up. Very informative, and I think this is exactly what we're dealing with here. This is exactly the plan. This is how you take out nation states. See, we use these techniques against other countries. That's why it makes so much sense to me, because when I read this document and when I look at these diagrams, especially this one here, we've used this form, this format. We've used this format on many countries over time historically. Why wouldn't we use it on ourselves? It works. It's effective. So we'll see. Well, I just wanted to share this document with you guys because I think it's valuable. Kind of give some perspective. So what do we have here? We have COVID-19, right? It's this the new normal acceptance is the negotiation piece, right? That's the settlement. Economic restructuring. COVID has a lot to do with restructuring the economy. That's why they're giving people UBI right now. People are making more money through this UBI, through this stimulus. People are making more money through this than they were making when they were working. You think we're going to go back? It's impossible. You're not going to even get people to do it. Because UBI is coming because 50% of the workforce is going to be leaving by 2025. So they have to prepare society for this change. You got to get people used to not working in a normal labor kind of force. So there's economic restructuring. That has to do with this. I'm trying to explain why they're doing this irregular warfare. The warfare has to do with reconstruction, the reset, the great reset. You know, Schwab he said specifically, we need an urgency for emergency. But he said, no one's really taking any of these things, and he was referring to climate change. No one's taking climate change serious enough. So we need to create some type of urgency for emergency. And he says, you know, we have, and plus the economy's so good right now, it's hard to get anybody to listen when everyone's comfortable, you know, in the economy. So of course they have to change that, take down the economy. But the economy was falling anyways, right? The economy has been on a downhill since 2001. It was going to crash no matter what. Not just because of how it's been run. You know, it's been run horribly. You know, this whole laissez-faire capitalism, it's not the right type of capitalism, right? It's this vulture style of capitalism, this neoliberal capitalism specifically, you know, the Reaganomics and all of that is pretty much what has destroyed the function of capitalism. Free market capitalism is pretty much the issue. It's just a result of this. So economic reconstruction, that's why we have the global economy coming through the World Economic Forum, okay? And the Great Reset, right? Bringing in the new technology. Now let's go into technology. Now I want to talk specifically about tech because I have several things to discuss in that regard. Let's see here. Pull this up, see who's with us. All right. So yeah, let's go into tech now. Oh yeah, before we go there, regarding Black Lives Matter, it's a resistance movement. You know, as we mentioned in the unconventional warfare document, the resistance movement, that revolution that it talks about building to create a type of demolition of the state. Black Lives Matter is the representation of that revolution, that resistance movement. You know, join the revolution, right? We're all being summoned to this movement, right? In pursuit of revolutionary change, right? The state is sanctioning the killing of blacks. That's the argument, right? The state needs to be changed. It needs to be destroyed because they're killing black people. Stop killing us, right? That's the argument. Now, the mistake for those who authentically and sincerely follow this movement, those that are out there that really believe in Black Lives Matter as a movement, not just the concept of lives that are black mattering, but the movement, mistake. And this is important. If you gather anything from this regarding Black Lives Matter, this is the most important point. Those behind this movement, those that sincerely follow it, those that believe change can be made through this type of revolutionary act, they fail to realize that the Great Reset, the global order initiatives, and of course, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, does not have the black community on its list of priorities. In fact, it doesn't care about races. It doesn't care about anyone. It doesn't care about humans. So we have to get that straight. You know, all these people, they want to change the society. The society is going to change, trust me. But you are not written in the priority list. You are merely going to be an extension of it, an appendage, right? So it simply does not care at all for the concept to begin with, this concept of race or black people. It doesn't care. Globalism does not care about your movement. It does not care about your liberation. It does not care about the racism you experience day by day. It is not concerned with your microaggressions. It is not concerned with the historical past of slavery. It is not concerned with the disparities between blacks and whites economically. It is not concerned with the deaths of young black men by the hands of cops. None of those things matter to the goal. When we're considering the ends, none of those things matter. They make this mistake because they fail to realize these things. It simply does not care, right? Racial, nationality, all of those things are dead. They're dead. Nationality is dead, and race is just being used as an excuse to kill it. You're all going to be a universal global citizen in a short amount of time. The black plight is a simple means to an extremely complex, encompassing end. Extremely complex. This whole thing is very complex, guys. I've read so much on this from all of these globalists, and this stuff is deep, man. Their plans are deep. Now, I don't think they're going to succeed in half of them, but they have plans, and they're going to try their best to carry them out, and you're not written in them. So, basically, blacks will fall into the virtual void of the global economy and be left to fend for themselves, and that's about it. Once this reset is accomplished, blacks, whites, brown, purple, I don't care who you are, where you're at, where you're from. You're just going to fall in line. And that's it. Simple as that. So that's where they make the mistake. That's the mistake they fail to realize, is they're just lost in the sauce in this regard. Let's see. Yeah. Used and abused and eschewed. That's pretty much it, man. Left to rot in the streets. You think you're rotting in the streets now? Just wait. Everybody is going to be subject to this. So I had to put that out there, because a lot of these activists, quote unquote, they think they're doing something. They think they're going to make a change. And I'm not telling you to give up. I'm not telling you to do nothing. I'm not telling you to just bow down to this. But I'm telling you to, or at least I pray that you see what this is truly about. And you see that this revolution you're joining, this movement you're attaching yourself to, is leading you into a preconceived, designed, strategically designed path. It's leading you somewhere. You're being used. You're being exploited for reasons that have nothing to do with your benefit, your interests, your livelihood, your progress, your liberation. It's quite the opposite. Your subjugation, in fact. This is an orchestrated crisis, what we're seeing right now. It's an orchestrated crisis to bring down the state and to create the global one. That's what we saw in CHAO, that crazy little state there in Seattle, little city state. And this is about the problem, reaction, solution. So what's the problem? The problem's American racism, historic oppression, right? And of course, what they're gonna respond with is the biotechnical and the socio-political, right? So that's biological and cultural, right? So we have to take both of these things into consideration. So we have to acquiesce to their biotechnics, and we have to acquiesce to their sociopolitics. And these things are basically going to be the formations of the new global order. So we'll just end there with that. Now let's go into some technology here. Let's see. Actually, let's pull up Chaz. Check this out. This is live right now. This is Chaz Chop Seattle. As you can see, it's been deconstructed a bit. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to get some more tea here real fast. Okay, so yeah, as we can see here, it still exists, but they're slowly breaking it down. And yeah, this was a very interesting social experiment. It was extremely unsuccessful. It was never autonomous, not for a second. It was a bunch of babies, a bunch of children, a bunch of mentally ill and abused children trying to be adults. And they failed. And I think it was a social experiment. I think it was not only to create some kind of crisis or a revolution, similar to the French Revolution. We're kind of seeing a like a strange copycat, lower level, cheap version of the French Revolution. Because if we remember, the French Revolution is exactly what it was, the opening of the gates to the deconstruction of reason, of logic, and of course it destroyed the power of religion in the world. So we can see how powerful revolutions can be. We can see that they can absolutely change the entire earth, and the French Revolution did in many ways, mainly ideologically. also geographically, but mainly ideologically. And we're seeing a similar attempt being made now. And if you do a little research, you see who funded and incited this, the French Revolution. There's nothing new under the sun, guys. Nothing new under the sun. So this is live. This is a live feed right now. This is literally right now in Seattle, Washington. People still chilling in the Chaz chop. They still got some barriers here, as you can see. Still barriers here. These are all going to be, they're supposed to all come down by today. We'll see. They're really trying to keep this thing going. But it's pretty interesting. I have so much footage from the past 2 weeks of nightly protests and riots and fights. I'll eventually be doing something with all of this footage. But it's been a very interesting psychological study, you know, seeing how behavior in human groups and crowd science, you know, groupthink and herd mentality, mainly crowd science, watching it play out before your eyes. It's extremely interesting. Anyhow. Okay, let's get back here. All right. So, let's see. Sorry, I haven't been in the chat for a minute here. I just gotta prepare some things. What's this? So yeah, we saw there's been so many deaths in Chicago. No one's mentioning any of them. It's all being ignored.
Our top story this hour, several children now becoming the latest victims of Chicago's
Wow, we got a 10-year-old girl killed by stray bullets.
A 10-year-old girl was killed when she was struck in the head by a stray bullet that came through the window of her apartment in Logan Square. This happened just before 10 last night near Dickens in St. Louis.
Hold on. This. Yeah, Black Lives Matter, right? There's another one. This happened. Wow, I think yesterday.
Several children now becoming the latest victims of Chicago's gun violence in the last 24 hours.
A 10-year-old girl was killed when she was struck in the head by a stray bullet that came through the window of her apartment in Logan Square. This happened just before 10 last night near Dickens in St. Louis. Neighbors thought the gunfire was fireworks. Police say the shots may have come from a group of men who began firing at another group on the block. No arrests have been made.
But Black Lives Matter, right? Black Lives Matter, right? Yeah, okay. If you say so. What did I want to pull up next here? So I got the this is the Panopticon, right? This is really what we're going to be seeing a lot more of here. Surveillance, right? The surveillance state. This is really what is coming. Initially, there's going to be much more, right? But surveillance and AI, the coalescence basically of these things. So cameras are going to not only have sensors on them to sense all different types of things, but they'll also have some machine learning where they will remember things and start to form patterns and make decisions on those patterns. Types of automation. This is really what it's about, guys. Like this whole COVID thing. The thing that's funny, and I guess it's not funny, but it's interesting, you know, how all this is happening. It really, what they're bringing in is very simple. It's all this, it's a draconian police state, you know, it's going to be much different from anything Orwell or Huxley had explained, though there will be some parallel things there, but this is really what's coming. Surveillance state. And the messed up part is it's going to be heaviest in the inner cities, mainly in the black community. So it's like we're calling to defund the police, but what's coming next is going to be most active in our communities. It's just it's such a trick, it's such a game, and it's very unfortunate, but it's working. That's the thing. It's working. With flying colors, as they say. So yeah, let's get into this. This is, man, this is interesting. So now let's talk about some technology. Let's see here. Okay. Big data, right? This is about big data. It's about the God brain, and of course, this whole COVID thing seems to be a compliance check, a submission strategy. You're grounded, basically. We're being grounded, every month or so we're going to get grounded, for not complying, not wearing enough masks, going out to the beach, having these social gatherings, right? So now let's talk about the Tracking and Surveillance Initiative. Basically, we're going into the biotech panopticon, the all-seeing eye, which is what this surveillance is. And I want to bring up this story here because I think this is how they're going to start this whole thing. Yeah, they're closing the beaches for 4th of July. Basically, they're canceling 4th of July. I believe this is symbolically taking a jab at American nationhood. The idea of killing America. It's all symbolic. Everything's symbolic, but they're doing real things. So now we're going to go into biotech. Let me get all my stories ready here. All right. Oh, and this one's interesting. This one's interesting. Check this out. Black Lives Matter protests have not led to spike in coronavirus cases, report. Of course. But everything else has, right? Everything else has contributed to the spike, except the Black Lives Matter protests, right? Oh, man. A new study examines the movements of people in cities where protests have occurred versus where protests did not occur. Researchers found no significant increase in cases following protests, just everything else. Interestingly enough, they're saying all of these new outbreaks have to do with young people, and when you watch any of these protests, they're all young people. All of them, for the most part. The great majority. So again, this is just more evidence to prove this thing is political. It's all political, man. Of course, they're demonizing the church. They're saying the biggest outbreaks are coming from the churches and family gatherings. And of course, the bars, right? Which is funny. Yeah. Big Daddy Technology, says Beverly Gilchrist. Good to see you, by the way. That's spot on. That's what this is. That's really what it is. And it has to do with the blockchain network. So the blockchain network, a SpaceLink, I think, or Starlink is a good example of this that Musk is working on. This basically life as we know it, and this is just what they say. I don't know if any of this will actually happen, and I don't plan to, or I don't aim to say that it is going to happen for sure. I personally believe they're going to fail in a lot of these different ambitions, but they plan on having life exist on and through a digital grid, blockchain being somewhat of the I guess operation system of this, right? The Starlink being part of this operation system, like Skynet, right? This is their goal, and if life is gonna exist through and on a digital virtual blockchain technological system, we all have to somehow be digitally connected to that system. And the way they're going to be doing that is directly through biotechnology. So we will have certain types of technology connected to our bodies that will immediately plug us into the system. Therefore, all of our information will be in this cloud. They use the term Internet of Things. Everything is going to be plugged into the internet, from your home to your car to your shoes to your body, right? And in order to do that, they have to adjust culture. They have to break tradition, because we're going into a new realm. We're literally going into a new human existence. Schwab, in his book, he has a whole section in one of the, I think it's the 3rd chapter, where he explains humanity is changing. We have to change how we perceive ourselves as human. We have to change our perceptions of humanity. In fact, we have to question what makes us human, because their goal is to merge humanity and machine. So in order to make that happen, or in order to get people to agree with this change, they have to kind of convince you that it's progress. They have to convince you that it's okay and that you're going to be fine. And in fact, you're going to be more advanced, right? You're going to have more of everything. You're going to be smarter, quicker, stronger, faster, right? And so tracking devices is the number one way to kind of, it's the foot in the door technique. It's getting you prepared to be plugged into this blockchain system. No one can be exempt from the system, or it's like as if you won't exist, because existence is going to exist and pretty much behave or operate through this blockchain. So if you're not connected to it, it's kind of like you don't exist, basically. And I think this is where the mark of the beast might eventually come into play. And so contact tracing is brilliant in that sense that it immediately takes care of that obstacle. Now that we have the reason to track all of you, now we can not only convince you, but force you to wear tracking devices. And just this device for tracking is the initial step to connect humans in this ubiquitous, uniform way, universally to this system. Universal connection. And this has to do with the argument for closing the digital divide, getting internet everywhere. Lightfoot, the Chicago mayor recently, I think it was last week or earlier this week, she says, you know what, I'm so proud I'm so proud to present this new development we have. We're going to be getting internet all of our classrooms. We're going to be getting internet to all of our children, in the inner cities. Yet she doesn't address the fact that they're being murdered every day. She's more concerned with getting them internet connection. Keyword connection. Connect. It's all about connection, getting humanity connected. Now we're going to go a little further. I'm going to show you something right here. This is where it gets gnarly. Check this one out. This is how they're going to do it right here. This is the beginning, and it's being done through COVID. And it's also being done through this whole BLM, because also I think what they're going to be doing is they're going to be using the protests as a way to increase contact tracing. But the first way they're going to do it is through schools. We're not going to open up the schools until we create some new type of school surveillance system. And what are they going to be doing? They're going to be tracking every single child. Yes, they're going to be using the children. The children will be given tracking devices. School turns to surveillance tech to prevent COVID-19 spread. Administrators hope tracking beacons will identify where students congregate and who should be isolated if someone contracts the coronavirus. So it's very brilliant the way they utilize this fake pandemic to introduce this new form of technology. And they're even going to be able to attest its efficacy. They'll be able to test its functionality through the children and this fake pandemic. It's going to give them the perfect environment to test out this technology, because this is the technology that's going to lead them to the great blockchain network digital grid. Let's go down here. I want to read just a tiny bit of this. A handful also are considering deploying a technology to help. We are very much interested in the automated tracking of students. Automated, right? Automation is the future. That's why 50% of the labor force will be removed by 2025, i.e. UBI that's coming, because most people won't be able to work because there will be no work. Machines will be doing a great amount of the work that most of us are doing today. So automation is a big word. In the automated tracking of students, says Michael Sawyers, superintendent for New Albany Plains Schools. I believe this is in Ohio. He believes that the technology could help the school determine whether social distancing is being observed and help quickly identify students who may have been exposed if someone tests positive for the coronavirus. Let's go down a little further here. A small but growing surveillance industry has sprung up around COVID already. Sprung up like as if it came out of nowhere. It's been waiting in the wings for this. This is their opportunity to shine. This is their time to take the main stage. With firms pitching everything from temperature tracking, infrared cameras, and contact tracing apps to wireless beacons and smart cameras to help enforce social distancing at work. It's been one of the most disturbing parts of this, says Albert Foxconn, founder of Surveillance Technology Oversight Project. Now, do you think these guys were making this surveillance technology for COVID? Of course they weren't, because the way they're selling it to us, they're saying, hey, COVID gave us the opportunity. Why were they making this advanced surveillance technology? Well, because it's part of this new reset. It's part of this new digital age that's coming. COVID has just been designed as the perfect way to test it out and also to roll it out, to literally implement it into society. Because all they got to do is bring it in, and then maybe a year from now, when COVID just mysteriously and miraculously disappears, oh well, that was our past. COVID was just an old past thing that we can now forget. Thankfully, we now are no longer burdened by the COVID. But guess what? We have this whole new digital network tracing and tracking surveillance system that's just normalized, right? Brilliant. So that's what this really is about, and this is how they're going to do it. Let's go down a little bit more. One of the things that will be a huge profit driver potentially is that younger children would need specially designed devices if they don't have smartphones. Do you see this? Specially designed devices. Because everyone doesn't have smartphones. And they also use the digital divide argument, like those in the third world that can't afford smartphones or don't have access to them. They're going to create these specially designed devices, and they're going to be very small. And eventually they'll be implanted, is what I think. And actually it's what I know because they say this. They're not saying it yet. But yes, this is all leading to these things. Let's go. Like countless other schools, those in the New Albany Plain District are considering regular temperature checks, as well as strict enforcement of mask wearing and social distancing. The additional tracking technology to be piloted there in the coming weeks through summer school classes comes from Volin, which sells Bluetooth beacons to some schools as a safety tool. The beacons track where people are and send alerts in emergencies. Volin is one of the several companies now hoping to sell its technology as an aid to reopening schools. So this is going to be their first step to bringing in this technology, is through the reopening and the schools and, of course, children. So it's like this whole, we don't know when we're going to let you reopen, and they keep pausing it. We're going to pause the reopen. Oh, we're going to let you out a little bit, pull you back in. So what this does is it builds up our frustration. It builds up our anxiety, builds up our angst to the point that we just need to get out. We want to be free again. Please reopen our society. Okay, we'll reopen, but we got to have all of these new constructs. We got to have all these new technologies and regulations. Are you guys okay with these new regulations? Oh, of course, anything to open up. I just want to get back to normalcy. Anything. And then, boom, there you go. Simple as. Associate Commissioner for External Affairs and Special Projects at the Massachusetts Department of Higher Education says some state universities in Massachusetts are exploring use of beacons. So this stuff is already underway. Let's see here. The pandemic transformed daily life across the world, closing virtually all U.S. schools in March. See how they just quickly just do it in a snap of the fingers, man. They could just shut down the world with this little fake pandemic thing and then just bring in all these new technologies in a matter of months, change the world. Snap of the fingers. Replace in-person conversations and students without good access to computers. Here we go. Let me read that again. Glitchy Zoom calls have replaced in-person conversations. So this is some type of Zoom calling, virtual communication. And students without good access to computers and high-speed internet risk falling behind. This is important here. This has to do with the digital divide. And this is exactly speaking to what Mayor Lightfoot had mentioned the other day in Chicago, where she said, I'm so happy to present my new high-speed internet for all the kids. And the reason she's announcing this is to bring in these new tracking services, these new tracking technologies. Mind you, she never mentions anything about the tracking, just mentioned the internet. Colleges and private schools that charge substantial fees may find it difficult to justify those charges if students continue to learn from their kitchen tables. The discussion is complicated by the fact children do not seem to spread coronavirus as readily as adults, blah, 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 blah. So let me read a little excerpt from The Fourth Industrial Revolution by Klaus Schwab, which is a very interesting book. Let's see, I think page 77. Check this out. This is going to speak directly to what they're talking about here regarding children and this, risk, or not risk, but access to computers and high-speed internet. So let's see. Of course, this is all about data-driven development. So this is the whole thing, data-driven, big data. It's all about data. Data-driven development. Everything is data-driven because everything is going to be on the blockchain. Everything is going to be digital. All experiences are going to be virtual. So everyone has to have access to the internet so they can be connected. So it says forums work. This is page 77. The forum's work on data-driven development highlights that it is not just access to digital infrastructure that matters for grasping these opportunities. Also, critical is addressing the data deficit, that's another name for digital divide, in many countries, particularly in the global south, thanks to constraints on how data can be created, collected, transmitted, and used. Closing four gaps which contribute to this deficit: its existence, access, governance, and usability. It gives countries, regions, and cities many additional abilities that can enhance their development, because it's all about enhancement, right? Being transhuman. Such as tracking the outbreak of infectious diseases, responding better to natural disasters, enhancing access to public and financial services for the poor, and understanding migration patterns of vulnerable populations. Let's go back here. Why did he just put that in there? This was written in 2015. This is what he says. The importance of this data-driven development having connection to the internet. Basically, he says it gives countries, regions, and cities many additional abilities that can enhance their development, such as tracking the outbreak of infectious disease. Boom, right there in his book. So basically, they knew having to track infectious disease gives you an excuse to bring in any type of tracking device, any type of similar technology. Here he also says governments must therefore focus on bridging the digital divide in countries at all stages of development to ensure that cities and countries have the basic infrastructure required to create the economic opportunities and shared prosperity that are possible through new models of collaboration, efficiency, and entrepreneurship. So they're trying to sell this, this pipe dream about, everything is just going to be so much better and advanced and developed for you if you have this digital infrastructure. It's kind of like FOMO, feeling of missing out. You don't want to miss out on this new digital world that's coming. So it's interesting here how they mention, of course, the digital divide, which is what they're talking about here. Kids failing to have high-speed internet, but they also mention the idea of tracking the outbreak of infectious diseases. And here's another one. Let's go to page 18. This one's important. This one's really important because this one is about a specific type of technology that's coming in the future, and it's called remote monitoring. And of course, the implementation of sensors. So this is page 18. We start here. It says one of the main bridges between the physical and digital applications enabled by the fourth industrial revolution is the Internet of Things, sometimes called the Internet of All Things. In its simplest form, it can be described as a relationship between things, products, services, places, etc., and people that is made possible by connected technologies and various platforms. Sensors, this is the most important thing because this is what's going to control society and give them the opportunity to get rid of police. Sensors and numerous other means of connecting things in the physical world to virtual networks are proliferating at an astounding pace. Smaller, cheaper, and smarter sensors are being installed in homes, clothes and accessories, cities, transport and energy networks, as well as manufacturing processes. Today, there are billions of devices around the world, such as smartphones, tablets, and computers, that are connected to the internet. Their numbers are expected to increase dramatically over the next few years, with estimates ranging from several billion to more than 1 trillion. This will radically alter the way in which we manage supply chains by enabling us to monitor and optimize assets and activities to a very granular level, right? So they're talking about getting to the atom. In the process, it will have transformative impact across all industries, from manufacturing to infrastructure to healthcare. Of course, I got to put healthcare in there. That's where the COVID plays a role. Healthcare is the easiest way to get this stuff in. Let's continue here. He says, consider remote monitoring, a widespread application of the Internet of Things. Any package, pallet, or container can now be equipped with a sensor, transmitter, or radio frequency identification, or RFID tag. That allows a company to track where it is as it moves through the supply chain, how it is performing, how it is being used, and so on. Similarly, and this is where it gets a little creepy, similarly, Customers can continuously track, practically in real time, the progress of the package or document they are expecting. For companies, they are in the business of operating long and complex supply chains. This is transformative. But in the future, similar monitoring systems will also be applied to the movement and tracking of people. Let's say that last sentence one more time, because that's what this is. That's what this COVID is bringing. This book was written in 2015. It's called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. And the Great Reset of 2020 by way of BLM and COVID-19 is the Fourth Industrial Revolution reset. This is what it's about. In the near future, similar monitoring systems will also be applied to the movement and tracking of people. How are they going to bring it in? Children. They are doing it through children. By saying, hey, you want your kids to go back to school? You want to reopen the schools? Well, we got to track them. And in fact, we got to use this tracking device technology that we've been working on for the past 10 or so years. And now we have the excuse to implement it. Straight out of the horse's mouth. Great reset. Here we are. Let me read a little more. Let's see. About 40 miles west of Pittsburgh, says he has talked with Identigy. So there's a company called Identigy. Why Identigy? Why identity? Because identity, i.e. ID 2020, and many other types of identification digital systems are going to be coming here, because this is what we are going to be plugged into to be part of this blockchain network, this grid, right? He's talked with Identity, a company advertising a system to record people's movements. Combined with smart ID cards or Bluetooth beacons, it could help manage COVID risk. The company says the platform will also be compatible with the contact tracing apps made by others. That would be the Cadillac, in my opinion. Muster says, we know that we need to identify some way to be able to automate the contact tracing process other than just, talking to teachers. So they literally have to track every single person. They have to know where you're at, what you're doing, who you're with, why you're there. Oh, and it's for your protection. It's for your security, right? Because of COVID. Blame it on COVID, right? Superintendent of the schools in Robbinsville, New Jersey, says he would be open to using a Volan system, which he used at a previous school. We're always trying to make school safer for kids. And I believe technology is the best way to do that. Do you? I'm sure. However, Blaze, who says the decision about whether to reopen schools in New Jersey will ultimately be made by the governor, seems unsure whether the Volan system or anything else for that matter will really keep kids safe. Yeah, we need something more severe, more advanced, right? Middle school kids, high school kids, they want to talk with their friends. They look forward to class, physical education, lunch, he says. Until there's a vaccine or a treatment, I'm not sure it's safe to go back. That's how they end it. Until there's a vaccine. And I believe the vaccines will be directly connected to this new identification, this new digital identification. So there's a lot of articles on this new type of surveillance, and it's happening all over the United States. I believe it's happening in London as well. This is the way they're going to be rolling out this new tracking device or tracking technology. There's another interesting one here. I read you that little excerpt from Klaus Schwab's book about sensors. Well, sensors are the future. New sensor may soon test for coronavirus and flu simultaneously. Interesting, right? So yeah, who knows how big this is? I can't really tell. But this is just the beginning. Soon this kind of stuff, they want to stick it under your skin or on top of your skin in some type of invisible tattoo or something. This is where it's all going. We've been talking about this stuff. Richie from Boston's been putting out stuff on this for years. And many others, KJ from Scariest Movie Ever has been doing great work on this. Many other people. Brother Theo, of course, has been really laying the groundworks for some of these things over time. I think Brother Theo was the first person I really saw the RoboCop breakdown. I mean, he put that out in like 2015, 2016, something like that. So, we've been talking about these things. I'm much later to the party than everyone else, so I'm just joining in here. But it says, with a second wave of the coronavirus likely to appear right as we get into the flu season, there's an urgent need for diagnostics that can differentiate between COVID-19 and influenza. You know what's interesting? They're using this term COVID-19 as if it's a disease. It's just a set of symptoms. It's so manipulative, the language here. A professor in the Cockrell School of Engineers, Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. Let's see, what do they end it with here? It became clear that just by changing the antibody, actually, I don't think they have much more in here. Let's see, building a simple sensor for detecting COVID-19 alone wouldn't be a great advantage for us because there's already several different ways to do so. The distinction of work is developing a dual sensor. Okay, anyhow, sensors. So it's all about sensors. Sensors are going to be everywhere, in your clothes, even in your skin. They're going to be all over the place because this is what's going to connect the Internet of Things. This is how everything is going to be connected to the clouds. And of course, artificial intelligence, or better, machine learning systems are going to be controlling the dissemination or the I'd say the pretty much the function and the control of all information, right? Sensors. So this is their plan. Are they going to succeed? We'll see. But this is where it's going. I'm showing you guys all this. I know it's a bit long-winded. It's kind of a lot of information. But basically, this is why we're experiencing this COVID thing. This is why we're experiencing this silly Black Lives Matter, pseudo revolution simulacra. That's why we're experiencing this, because they're bringing in a new order. They're bringing in a new type of digital state, and they have to use real world things in order to make it happen. So let's see if you guys are still with me. Let me pull up the chat here. We've been on almost 3 hours. Goodness. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. I appreciate you. That's for sure. Wow, we still got a full house. Let's see. It's the flu, says 3M. Good to see you, by the way. One world hive mind. That's it, Julius Thompson. That is it. That's it. Everyone plugged into the Borg. That's what this really is, the Borg. Yep. That's where this is going. So I think I have a little bit more tech stuff to talk about. I think, let me see. I really wanted to touch on the schools because that's precisely how this is going to happen. Through the children. It's always through the children, man. Because they know as parents, we're afraid, like that's their it's the easy way out. And let's get into a little bit of a little transhumanism. Check out this one here. This one's interesting. It's always the coronavirus or COVID. It's always the excuse to roll in stuff. To slow the coronavirus death toll, we may need to slow down aging. The pandemic has overwhelmingly hit older people, leaving some longevity researchers wondering whether slowing aging could be the key to beating the virus. And what's interesting as well is Klaus Schwab in his Fourth Industrial Revolution book also has a segment dedicated to the problem of aging and all the economic implications therein. Very interesting. It's just, you read the globalist works and then you compare it and contrast it to the media, and it all lines up. Everything they've been talking about is the media just slowly spoon feeding it to us in very light, cute, and sensitive ways, but it's all leading to the same crap. This is transhumanism. We got to make humans live longer. How can you live longer? Oh, well, you plug yourself into this machine. You take these vaccines and you do all of this and that, and you'll live longer, right? Let's see here. Oh, check this one out. Not wearing a mask is now a crime in these places. What? Face masks are now mandatory in 16 states and the District of Columbia. Washington State is the latest to join the list of states that have issued orders requiring residents to wear face coverings as the U.S. reaches a new peak in daily coronavirus cases. An uptick in COVID-19 cases overwhelmed hospitals in Yakima County, leaving no beds available for the influx of patients. Oh, again, with the bed complaint, right? Wow, illegal. I don't know if that's any lawyers out there. I don't even think they can legally force you to wear a mask on your face. Possibly indoors they could do that, but not in public, not in open nature. They can't force you to cover your face. I can't see how that could in any way be legal. Could be wrong. Until a vaccine or cure is developed, this is going to be one of our best defenses, Fauci says. I think of these face coverings in some sense as a statement. See, here it comes with the psychology. Here it comes with the appealing to emotion, appealing to identity. I think of these face coverings in some sense as a statement. It's a statement that when you wear it, it means you care about people, because it means you want to reduce the risk that you are going to infect another person, Inslee said during a press conference. Oh, I say this is Inslee. Okay. The priority is education and voluntary compliance, though individuals can be cited for up to a misdemeanor with an misdemeanor up to $100 fine. Wow, so you can be fined $100 for not wearing a mask in certain areas. Voluntary compliance, you see? Priority is education. That's re-education, mind you. Oh, look at these heroes. Hardcore heroes saving the world, guys. I'm sick and tired. I am sick and tired of it, guys. This is another interesting one. Coronavirus contact tracing won't work if you don't pick up the phone. So this is going to be another reason why they're going to force contact tracing devices on us, because they're going to blame us for not picking up our phone. Because that's the technique now, you know, with the contact tracers. They just call the people's numbers and you're supposed to pick up the phone and tell them who you've been in contact with. And of course, no one's complying because the whole thing is stupid. But what they're going to do is say, well, since you guys don't pick up your phones, since you guys aren't complying to the system, the strategy that we're using, now we're just going to have to really implement these devices, and you're going to have these devices either on your body or in your body, because we have to protect you. We have to protect the people. We have to protect society, right? It's madness. Absolute madness. Let's finish up with Lord Birkenhead. This one's interesting. So this is out of a 1929 what is this here? This is Cosmopolitan. So this is a 1929 edition of the Cosmopolitan magazine. And this is an article by the old Lord Birkenhead. He has some really interesting things to say here. I actually have the physical copy in front of me here, so I'm going to read it from the physical one because I had marked off some things here. Check this out. This is what he says. These are going to be the changes that happen in 2029. This was in 1929, and he said, I'm going to give some forecasts for 2029. And listen to what he says. Babies will be produced by chemists in laboratories. The entire institution of marriage will be changed. We will all live to be 150. No one will need to work more than 2 hours a day. We're already seeing these things now. Of course, the transhumanism, living to 150. Entire institution of marriage will be changed. It already has. Babies will be produced by chemists in laboratories. That's CRISPR, right? That's designer babies. Schwab has another chapter just on that alone. No one will need to work for more than 2 hours a day. Why? Because automation. This guy wrote this in 1929. Okay, he's not some clairvoyant. He's not, some psychic or something. He just knows the plan. No one's going to be working because machines are going to be doing everything. Right? We just become useless eaters and consumers. This one's interesting. He says agriculture. It's at the bottom here. Probably can't read this. Let me pull it up to the main screen here. Let me blow it up a little bit. Right here, agriculture will be abolished except as a hobby, and all foodstuffs will be produced synthetically. Bill Gates, anybody? Lab meats, anybody? Not allowing people to buy seeds, Monsanto GMO seeds, right? Already happening. Man will be able to alter the geography or climate of the world. This is weather modification. Coal mining will be an extinct industry because we'll be having new forms of energy. A 48-hour day will, I don't know about that one. He says a 48-hour day will come into being by retarding the rotations of the Earth. Well, the Earth isn't rotating, for one. And two, I just think he went a little far with that one. Sitting in our homes, we will see and hear events the world over. This is the internet. He's talking about the internet. We'll be able to sit in our homes and experience the world before us. Very interesting. I'll read a couple other parts here. Let me see here. I want to read the part about the food because this one's interesting. Perfect wireless telephony. Such developments must influence the future of politics. Let's see here. Oh, this one's interesting. Here, what's this page? This is. There you go. He says on the bottom here, right here. He says the abolition of epidemic disease by 2020 is fairly certain, as in the discovery of cures for scourges as cancer and tuberculosis. So I think he's referencing vaccines there. He doesn't say inoculations, but I think that's what he could be referencing. This is interesting. Reading this thing is pretty interesting, man. So check this out. I'm going to read this part here. This right here. So he says, before 2029, biologists will have solved some of the mysteries of human heredity. Heredity is determined by certain genes or units concerning which science already knows much. They are minute bodies, so small that if a hen's egg were magnified to the size of the world, one of the genes in it would lie on a fair-sized dining table. When biologists can control these, they will be able to control heredity. Most probably by 2029, a clever young man will consider his fiancée's heredity complexion before considers fiancée's hereditary complexion before proposing marriage. And the young woman of that day will refuse him because he has inherited a gene from the father which will predispose their children to quarrelsomeness. So they're basically talking about, hey, eugenics. This is eugenics here. By intelligent combinations of suitable genes, this is positive eugenics specifically here. By intelligent combinations of suitable genes, it will be possible to predict with reasonable certainty that truly brilliant children shall be born of a marriage. It is possible, however, that by 2029, the whole question of human heredity and eugenics will be swallowed up by the prospect of ectogenetic birth. That's externalized, that's lab birth. By this is meant the development of a child from a fertilized cell outside its mother's body in a glass vessel filled with serum on a laboratory bench. Such a proceeding is neither incredible nor indeed impossibly remote. The results of much research show that the connection between a mother and her growing child are purely chemical. Just listen to this materialism here. The results of much research show that the connections between a mother and her growing child are purely chemical. There is no valid reason why one day biologists should not be able perfectly to imitate that chemical connection in the laboratory. The possibility of ectogenetic children will naturally arouse the fiercest antagonism. He's talking about Christians here. Religious bodies of many different creeds will rally their adherents to fight such a fundamental biological invention. In fact, the mere mention of its possibility here may strike many readers as gratuitously disgusting. Nevertheless, the thing is possible, and since it is possible, it is certain that scientists will be deterred by no persecution from straining after it. So again, it's this whole scientism. If it's possible, it's going to happen. If we can do it, we will. The lack of insight, the lack of foresight, the lack of ethics. It's just, if we can make a monster, since we can make it, let's just make it. Who cares if it eventually just, kills off our entire civilization? We'll continue here. He says, should ectogenesis ever become an established part of human society, its effects will be shattering. Primarily, it will separate reproduction from marriage, and the latter institution will become wholly changed. Further, the character of the future inhabitants of any state could be determined by the government which happened temporarily to enjoy power. So basically, he's saying the government can control this lab reproduction system and start to use eugenics on the society, create strong human beings and create weaker human beings, a caste system similar to what we will read in, or what we would read in Brave New World. By regulating the choice of the ectogenetic parents at the next generation, the cabinet of the future could breed a nation of industrious dullards, or leave in the population with 50,000 charmingly irresponsible mural painters. The writing is interesting. When you the way people used to speak and write back then is so interesting. Like, even when you read the ads, they're so eloquent. It's just like, oh, this. It's funny. It's like we're so dumbed down. Even like and I get this all the time. Just because I tend to, a lot of my videos are written, as if it was, reading out of some literature or something, and people take that as a negative, or they're like, oh, why are you trying to sound smart? It's like, it's not my fault you're not familiar with words. It's not my fault you probably only read one book in your life. It's just because there are actual vocabulary words being used for once doesn't mean that the author of those words has some negative intention or some predisposition that should be looked down upon. It's possibly this is just the English language. And actually, you see how society has changed so much. We're just so dumbed down. You read some of these old articles, and it's just amazing how different people used to think. And yeah, we were ignorant in many ways. Of course, there's racism and all types of blatant ignorance, but just in other ways, it's just like, oh, people just had a lot more in their brains, and they actually weren't as spoiled and selfish. You read some of these old writings, it's just interesting. There's so much more here I could read. Maybe I'll save this for another show. We've been on over 3 hours here. This is a really good article here. I have the whole article here, digital and print. I'll actually put it up on the website. I'll post it up on the website so you guys could read it. It's kind of hard to read. The printing is real small and not very easy on the eyes, honestly, but anyhow, I think we'll stop there. We've been on a while. This has been fun. I really appreciate all you guys joining. See here, starting to lose my voice here, it feels like. All right. Wow, we still got a full house here. Wow, you guys been sticking with us. So we went a little bit of the biotech, the panopticon, the main focus of the schools, guys. If you have children out there, reconsider putting them back in these schools, because if we comply, if we accept these new systems that they're rolling out, it's just going to happen. It's really up to us. I'm serious. Like, public opinion is shaped by the public. Unfortunately, it is co-opted and commandeered by social engineers. So really, we got to get it together, man. We really do. And we have to put our foot down and, just, go against this, because all these things, they have all these things ready to roll out. Oh, there was a whole other part about synthetic meats. That's what I wanted to read that part real quick, man. That synthetic meats. Yeah, check this out. So it says, such a development will, of course, be watched with anxious eyes by all governments. Food prices will slump. Millions of laborers all over the world will find their livelihood vanished. Hard on the heels of this development will come to the perfection of synthetic foodstuffs. And what he's saying is there's going to be the end of the agricultural movement. Farming will end. And we're already seeing that happen right now, literally. They are destroying the independent farming industry. And he's saying this here in 1929. And he's saying they were going to create synthetic foodstuffs. Concerning proteins, he's talking about meat here. Think about Bill Gates as I read this. Concerning proteins, again, this was written in 1929. Concerning proteins, the other most important human food, two possibilities exist. Either they too will be produced synthetically, or else the more highly prized varieties of animal foods, such, for example, a beefsteak or chicken breast, will be grown in suitable media in the laboratory. From one parent's steak of choice tenderness, it will be possible to grow as large and as juicy a steak as can be desired. So long as the parent is supplied with the correct chemical nourishment, it will continue to grow indefinitely and perhaps eternally. Whenever it is sufficiently large, a few pounds can be cut from it and sent to the market. Synthetic foods and production of animal tissues in vitro will finally set at rest those timid minds which prophesy a day when the earth's resource will not feed her children. Though all the inhabitable surface of the globe were inconveniently crowded, the millions of mankind could still be fed to repletion by such means. This second revolution in food production will consummate the decay of agriculture, which can only survive as a rich man's hobby. Probably, however, the synthetic foods of the next century will be so much more easily digested and appetizing than their present equivalents that agriculture will survive only in historical romances. Wow. Since the beginning of history, the city has been the parasite of the countryside. In 2029, science will make the city a self-supporting unit, and Britain a land of laboratories capable of feeding no matter how many millions of mouths without importing a ton of foodstuffs. Oh my goodness. This is happening right now. Literally. This is happening right now. It's crazy, man. These people are psychopaths. You know, I actually want to go into much more depth on this. In fact, I might even make a video about this alone and kind of put in some arguments and some different references that I have. I've been talking straight for 3 hours, so I'm getting a little foggy in the head and my throat's getting a bit scratchy here. But wow. Well, I think we're gonna close up shop here. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me this whole time. We've been hovering over 500 up to 700 this whole time. This is great. I really appreciate you guys. This is pretty awesome. So let me pull up the chat and say goodbye to some of you. All right, let me right here. Okay, there we go. All right, fake issue Earth can support 4 times the population easily. Yes, Data Junkie. Absolutely. That's the trick. They want to trick us into believing that the earth needs to be fixed. Man needs to be fixed. You know, nature needs to be reorganized as man. This Prometheism. It's really interesting. This it's just it's so false. Let's see. Brother Brad's in the house. Good to see you, brother. Jamila White. I wish I could stay, but I'm literally, after talking for several hours, you kind of just get real lightheaded and your brain slows down. The connection slow down. Brad, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, I definitely will email you, Jamila. I've been working hard on this book here, and I'm cranking it out. I've revised it so many times. It's been a labor of love. Let's put it that way. Thank you, V Power. Good to see you, sis. That means a lot. So yeah, I'm gonna get myself out of here, man. I need to get a little food in me. Betty Demirs, you're very welcome. Oh, sorry about that. Might cut out there for a second. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me, man. It really means a lot. You guys been sticking around the whole time. It's awesome. Yes, I will get these articles to you that I shared today. I'll get these in the put these in the description there. And Black Cube Mysteries in the house. Good to see you, man. When are you going to be putting out some new stuff, man? Connect with me, man. Let's do some streams. I haven't seen you in a while. For all eyes to see Christ. Thank you for being with us. Ms. McBrew 72. Good to see you. Dolphinately Bro is in the house. Good to see you, man. Atlas Dust, thank you for being with us. Paul S, thank you for being with us. Natasha Labe, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. And Nana Mouse is in the house. Good to see you, man. Erica L, good to see you. Beverly Gilchrist, of course. Thanks again. Paul Levy, Scott Allen, of course. Good to see you guys. Golden Mask. Regmon Music's in the house. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for joining us. I think I saw who else was in there? San Pablos. Good to see you, brother. San Pablos 39, definitely in the building. One of my first subscribers. Good to see you, brother. A day oneer. Sonny Smith. I think I saw Brother Bob earlier. Good to see you. B Power, of course. Not a P. Good to see you. Nicole Halestock. Thank you for joining. Thank you for subbing. Appreciate you. There's Bob D. Good to see you, brother. All right, Estelle V, thank you for being with us. L. Raleigh, JG, Fair Weather, KR in the house. Good to see you in a long time. Austin Starr, thank you for joining. KD, of course, I will try my best, Lord willing. Thank you for being with us. Dan Rodus, good to see you. Jonathan Alvarez. Khalito Braganti is with us tonight, or should I say this afternoon. Good to see you. Colleen C, thank you for being with us. Cool Vanilla 300C, long time no see. Good to see you. MJA is with us. Good to see you, sis. MJA, big supporter of the channel. Been around for a while. Good to see you. Joseph Powell, JP, is in the building. As always, good to see you, brother Joseph Powell. Sandra Kippert, good to see you as well, sis. Esquivel. Always good to see Esquivel 7. Yes, we are all one, JD Redwood. This is true. Under Christ. Yes, we absolutely are. That's the truth. Oh, wow. M1 Grand Bear says, hey, man, you were a big part of me getting baptized. Thank you so much. Wow. That's beautiful, man. That is amazing. Praise God. I thank the Father for that. I really do. That is amazing. I mean, it doesn't really get any better than that, because I guess at the end of the day, that is really the goal here, you know, bringing us to the Father through Christ. Amen to that. Edgar Rios, another longtime supporter. Good to see you, brother. All right. Good to see Edgar Rios in the house. Yes, sir. Gold Brooks, good to see you as well. All right. All right. Yeah, we're gonna call it a day for now. We'll be back. Got a couple videos I'm cranking out here. See which one I finish up first. Whatever I finish up first gets put up. Yeah, I got an Agenda 2030, Agenda 21 video that I've been slowly cranking out. I know Richie for Boss has been waiting on it, man. I'm working, man. I'm working. I'm trying to get that one done. There's just so much to add to it. There's just so much. And me and Brother Brad of the Brad from Carolina channel are doing a Technocracy series. So, you know, that's pulling a lot of my time and energy as well. We'll be having our part 2, our second part to that United States of Technocracy this Friday at the same time, probably about 1:30. I'll be putting up the countdown for that. So this Friday, me and Brother Brad will be doing another one of those Technocracy, the part 2, the follow-up to that last show we did this recent Friday. Good to see you, Girl Interrupted. Thank you for being with us. So I'll be looking for that. And thank you to all those that contribute to the show and the channel, you know, that support the show, support this work, you know, through Patreon and donations. I have a bunch of great donators out there that I want to thank. I'm going to be putting something together for you guys. Got a whole list that I want to go over. I'll most likely be doing that on the next show. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are making this happen, especially during these times when this is all we really have to keep us to keep us working and moving. You know what I'm saying? This is definitely my source of work. So I really appreciate you guys. It means a lot. I literally couldn't do this without you. I would never have the time. I'd be doing something else, right, to survive here. So I appreciate you. I truly do. All those new patrons that have recently joined, I believe we got one today. Thank you very much. I will see you at the Patreon page where we do non-YouTube exclusive work. I do talks and different breakdowns, and it's more intimate over there on the Patreon. You know, I just kind of chat and, you know, share some of my theories and some of my ideas that I don't share here on YouTube. So thank you for being there. We got a bunch of stuff. I've been collecting data and different talks for Patreon over the past 2 weeks, especially during all this Chaz stuff. So we have a bunch coming on the Patreon, the exclusive stuff. It's just my area to really get a little more detail with some of my my thoughts and theories. So I appreciate you guys. That's where the fun's at. I really enjoy doing the Patreon work, probably most of all, because it kind of, you know, it's just a little more intimate. Anyhow, so yes, thank you for those who have joined the Patreon, and those who haven't, we have it there in the description. If you guys want to join there. Yeah, so let me get myself out of here, man. I could sit here and talk all night, man. So again, thank you for being with me, and we'll be back with much more. I want to end the show as always by saying all praises to the Most High God. In Jesus' name, amen and shalom.